That was a sunny day. Two friends were walking through the city streets. It was the day before their high school graduation ceremony. As he walked calmly down the street, an energy began to take over his foot, and without the slightest warning, his friend notices that he is falling. Without the slightest pretext, the boy seems to be fainting. He falls to the ground of the sea where he walked, but feels as if he were crossing space, sinking into a black sea without direction or control, until he falls into a desolate and fiery place, feeling as if he had fallen into hell itself. Afraid, he wonders what this is. Nearby, two creatures share a meal, until another one arrives to take what was theirs, taking the monster that was already there as its own dinner. Our hero watches from behind a hidden rock. In panic, he asks where he is. It was day 10, and the boy realized he was starving, and there was neither day nor night there, not even rays of sunlight. As he walks through the place, he finds a carcass with meat. Thinking that the only thing he can eat is this rotten meat left behind by monsters, he crouches there and starts his meal. While eating, he thinks not to vomit. If he doesn't want to die, he has to eat this. To survive, he knows he needs this and continues eating. And for that, he needs to adapt, but out of nowhere, while he was eating, a huge creature appears behind him. It strikes a powerful attack, and our hero barely escapes by crawling. Picking up a stone from the ground, he throws it at the creature, cursing that damn monster. The stone hits the creature's face, and he thinks that to survive, as he grabs a bunch of stones and starts throwing them at the monster, which retreats. Then he realizes he will need to fight while crying and realizing he misses his mother. During day 39, something hit a monster square in the face. Our hero hit the creature without mercy. With that weapon full of battle marks, he curses the monster. Furious, he thinks he will kill them all, and that he needs to let go of this whole being human thing. Sometime later, on day 51, in a shelter made of the bones of a huge creature, he eats meat now roasted, thinking he has to do this to survive. He thinks this disgusting meat is like a luxury to him, as he eats it while tending his fire. A terminal appears saying he has reached level 3, which leaves the boy somewhat confused. While eating, he wonders if he has finally gone mad. Looking closely at it, he thinks, or maybe. And with his deco, he clicks on the confirmation. After 24 years, his current level was 24, and he was casually punching a creature's head. Apparently, it was too strong and left a hole there. He thinks it's now easier to knock these bugs down with just one hand and continues taking them down one by one. Our hero made a sword from a stone he took from a dragon knight and seems quite excited about that weapon. After 51 years, he tore off the head of a son of some kind of divine being, and sitting there, he thinks he had a pretty full day. Now it was already 365 days and 79 years, and he arrived at a very eccentric place, thinking that they had finally arrived and that at last the long wait was over and he would meet the demon god. The same bastard who took him to hell, quite satisfied with the situation, he thinks he won't lose anything by waiting. Our hero seems to be in the middle of a frantic battle, which he easily won as expected. A huge demon asks how he dares attack the demon god guardian of the gate, saying he will tear him to pieces and feed him to the monsters. The enormous monster strikes our hero with force. While defending himself, he asks why he doesn't just open the castle door and chill, and then he'll let him live a little longer. Daesung is surprised by something, and saying he's a cheeky guy, strikes our hero and throws him far away. He tries to get up from the ground, while the demon god says that he is the one who will die. Our hero charges at the monster as it prepares to attack. Without hesitation, Daesung prepares to strike, landing a precise blow on the monster. Then using its belly as support, he pushes away. Our hero regains his composure a little distance from the gate guardian. A flame appears beside him, and says this guy is relentless, that he'd rather just kill him once and for all. Missing one of his hands, the demon screams, saying he dares defy the demon god. And the demon god asks if he does not fear his grace and does not wish to bring any humiliation to the demon god. But in the next moment, that enormous creature has a hole in its chest, made by our hero's sword. Daesung simply observes the monster with a serious look. Still holding his pose after throwing the sword, he thinks that thing was too noisy. Defeated, the monster says that this is ridiculous, then collapses to the ground in the next moment. The skull asks what he will do, for even with the gate guardian dead, the demon god will not let him go free. He says he knows that, and asks if he's sure he wants to kill the demon god ruler of hell and become the absolute ruler, but Daesung says he's not interested in that. That skull then asks why he's fighting the demon god, and Daesung says it's been 80 years since he arrived there in hell. He fought many monsters and had to survive, and his companion says yes, and that they really were great guys. That all of them have many stories and reasons for going to hell, and that's why he has a question. Why does the demon king want him there in hell? That's it, he's going to ask the demon god about it, and the skull asks if he's an idiot, and why doesn't he just ask politely? Tells him not to do that, to go and beg now, bow and plead for forgiveness, and that he's going to ask questions. And our hero says no, that the price must be paid for taking him to this hell and making him suffer. He finally arrives in front of a huge castle, holding his energy-filled sword. He charges at it saying, "Let's go." And in the next moment, he seems to wake up in an all-white place, not understanding anything that's happening. Daesung opens his eyes, gasping. With difficulty, he starts to see something. And in the next moment realizes he's in a hospital. thinks it's been a long time since he dreamed of Earth, about 30 years, more or less. In terrible condition, he wonders why it's a hospital, realizes he can't move his body, and wonders if this might be a lucid dream, but unfortunately, he must be in a vegetative state. Suddenly, nearby, a tray with drinks falls to the floor. A woman seems shocked by what she sees. Our hero looks at her as best he can. Crying and trembling, she says her son is awake, while he thinks he doesn't like dreams like this. She hugs our hero. He thinks it's childish and silly, and would rather interrupt it right now, but watches as she calls him dear. She hugs him, while he thinks this can only be a dream, questioning what vivid feeling this is. Starting to get scared, he wonders why. Back in hell, the scene was total destruction on the battlefield, and our hero said he really thought he was going to die. The skull says he's a bastard monster, and never thought he'd manage to catch the demon. Da-sung curses him, saying he didn't hear anything because he was fighting. Says the cowardly demon intended to talk before attacking, and he tried to strike his neck after he tried to listen to him, and the skull says the body should be split in half. The skull adds that now that he killed the demon god, he is the absolute ruler of hell, and asks what he will do. A terminal opens beside him again, but this time an important question appears, asking if he would like to return to hell. The companion asks what that means, and Dae-sung can only ask Earth, it's been 80 years since I fell into hell. The skull asks if it wasn't on Earth that he lived before going to hell, and our hero thinks that every day he prayed to be free of this cursed place. So there's no reason to worry about this crazy place if he can just escape. Then, having made his decision, he presses the button confirming. A light appears before our hero. He becomes curious watching that. And back in the normal world, a doctor with a flashlight asks if Da-sung can cure him, while he wonders if this is real. The doctor says he's been in a vegetative state for a long time, so it must be hard for him to move normally, but that he will get better with rehabilitation. With a trembling voice and in tears, the woman thanks the doctor very much, but he says it's all thanks to the mother's sincerity. Suddenly something happens and our hero lets out a scream. The doctor tries to do something, telling him to calm down, while he questions which one is the true dream. If the dream was that moment when he found the message, or if it is now. Those young people ask his mother if he turned into a monster, and that they must report it. The doctor calls his name, while in fury, he tells the man not to come near him, and he bites his hand hard. That doctor screams in pain. Dae-sung asks if it's a curse or paralyzing poison, and asks what they did to his body. The doctor screams in pain looking at his hand, and suddenly our hero is able to move. He falls to the floor screaming and asking how he managed to live until now. His mother screams his name, while he thinks it doesn't make sense. He says it's 80 years of fighting and asks if they believe he will die peacefully now, that he prayed and prayed while dying on the frozen ground of hell. Then he screams saying he will never die, thinking to let him return. Two nurses enter the room, a bit scared. The men try to help him while he screams, telling them to let go before he kills them all, but doesn't believe he's awake with such a horrible body. Suddenly something catches our hero's attention, something that apparently scares him. He looks at the window, and outside in the sky something very strange is happening. Being put back into the bed, he thinks that this is. A bunch of lightning bolts come out of that thing above the city, and Dae-sung thinks it's a wormhole, but why is that there? Han Dae-sung has returned to Earth. Screaming and fighting, he asks if the guy thinks he'll live after doing that to him and how he dares do it. One of the nurses injects him, and finally it seems he's fading, while ordering to kill them all. Almost without strength, he asks, "How dare you?" His vision gets blurry and he blacks out. Sometime later on the news, a reporter says that today at 9 in the morning in the sky over Seoul, a portal opened in that place, but luckily a group of hunters who were in the neighborhood managed to get there immediately. While our hero sleeps deeply, through the window we see that portal. At the site, someone asks the hunting team to report the situation. While someone eliminates a monster, the voice insists on calling the hunting team. Finally, he responds saying that the current suppression is complete and is in its final stage. Through the communicator, the person asks how much longer this will last, and the man responds that based on the situation of the hunting team, he believes they'll be able to withdraw in an hour. Then the boss orders to report immediately when it's over, and he'll take care of the rest, and to please take good care of the situation. Then the man on the other side confirms. The boss puts the phone in his pocket. While on the TV it says the hunting team responded quickly, and the portal is now in the disappearing stage. Waking up slowly, our hero thinks, wormhole, portal, hunting team. Excited, a man in a suit asks if that guy finally woke up. With difficulty, our hero asks, who? The guy asks if he doesn't know who he is, and Dae-sung says no way, but then says, Chanho. Then that guy says yes, it's Chanho, and asks if he's okay. Sitting up with difficulty, he says fine, while the guy says that he's been asleep for 10 years since he fell. Without showing expression, he thinks, 10 years? 10 years ago, on the day of high school graduation, the two friends were walking through the streets, until something strange happened to the boy. Someone who was in perfect condition suddenly collapsed, and he simply fell beside his friend, collapsing on the ground while his friend called his name, and since that day, he had been lying in a hospital bed for 10 years. With his eyes closed, he thinks 10 years, but I was in hell for 80 years. But in reality, it was only 10 years. Dae-sung says that's a relief, and his friend asks what he's talking about. but our hero finishes, saying it's nothing. Chanho says that anyway, his mother went through a lot during this time because of the hospital bills. He's been working 2 jobs. Smiling, he tells him to recover his body soon, because now he's in charge, and that he doesn't need to worry about work. He'll get a job for him. Without showing any emotion, he says that's fine. And sometime later, someone is walking with a wheelchair. His mother asks if the weather isn't beautiful today. Daesung thinks that in hell he fought to survive, but had no family and no responsibility for anything. And with this body that he can't properly move, he's just a burden. He thinks reality is as cruel as hell. Suddenly, our hero's mother gets scared, and 2 rough-looking men show up calling for the Abjuma. They ask why she isn't answering them if she's not going to pay back the money she borrowed, and say that if someone stays underwater too long, they'll die. Scared, she apologizes and says she'll take care of everything by next month. The man says, next month, how many times have you said that before? Begging, she says she promises this time to just give her a little more time, and the man curses, pulling her hand forcefully. He asks who said she could touch him, and says that if she borrows money from someone, she doesn't have to pay it back right away. He asks if it's because they talk gently and look nice. She says not to do that in front of her son, and that she really will pay them next month, so please go away. The man mocks, saying she's crying and getting embarrassed in front of her son. He adds that she needs to be beaten to obey, punching her in the face. Our hero gets furious right there, and full of rage, he calls them insects. One of the men asks what he said, and the other replies that he called them insects. Daesung continues and says they're bastards worse than insects. His mother, scared, tells him to stop, that he can't say things like that. The man grabs him by the shirt and says, that's it, keep making a mess. Crying, she begs him to hurry and apologize. She says he doesn't know anything, he's just a patient, to please let him go. That man says he doesn't care what he knows or not because all the money went to that bastard. Daesung then asks what he's going to do, calling them again bastards worse than insects. The man asks if his brain is awake and says his sense of reality is messed up. With a wicked look, he asks who the insect is here. The worm who can't keep his mouth shut. Daesung gets sent bouncing across the floor. The guy adds that it's better to crush an insect. Our hero tries to defend himself as best he can. Kicking him, the guy tells him to say that again. Cursing the men, Daesung thinks that if only he had his normal body back. The woman, crying, pleads with her son and tells the men to stop. Enjoying the moment, the guy says he told him to say that again. Daesung thinks they're a bunch of brats, that if they were in hell, these guys would be torn to pieces. Suddenly, a terminal appears in front of him, saying that the initial mission has arrived, asking if he would like to accept it. If he refuses, he will receive no reward. Our hero is surprised by that and thinks, arrival mission. Being beaten on the ground, he struggles to press the button. Just needs a little more. A terminal is open, but he has doubts it helped him endure 80 years in hell, because he was the only one. Lying on the floor, he sees the man who is hitting him. Wondering what's happening, he starts to get up. He realizes that everyone is frozen, as if time had stopped. He thinks that may have happened because he accepted the mission. On the terminal, it says it's the mission to recover the body, that he must reach the designated location within a maximum of 1 hour, receiving a restorative elixir and jade body. He wonders what this elixir is and also the jade body, if he would return to his original body. Looking ahead, he sees a red arrow full of energy. As he crawls, it spins with force. He thinks that instead of anything else, he must go there, and that he can return to normal, but he needs to crawl. Suffering and groaning, he follows his path. He curses his feet, and says that to think the one who conquered hell would be whining like this. He realizes that it won't be easy to reach the location in the given time, and this isn't something he can endure by willpower alone. You must have a cold heart because the system doesn't give him impossible missions. And the same goes for this mission, which tells him to go to the designated place. So determined, he commands himself to move. There's no saying he just has to walk there. He just needs to get there somehow. Suffering on the ground, he looks at the terminal and says this is so stupid that he can't believe he didn't realize it. With effort, he grabs onto the wheelchair, while time is down to just 5 minutes. Using immense strength, he begins to climb the thing. Trembling and straining, he doesn't give up. He thinks he has to endure and throws himself onto the chair with only 35 seconds left. Now in position, he realizes there's still time, but the clock shows 15 seconds. Then in the best way he can, he advances toward his objective, with only 9 seconds left. Totally focused, he continues the route 6 seconds. Daesung gives it his all, but there are only 2 seconds now. And in the next moment, he crosses that red arrow, shattering it, when the time showed only 1 second remaining. Panting, breathless, he sees the elixir appear in front of him. And on the terminal, it says that the elixir will recover a small amount of the current status of the absolute ruler. Without any hesitation, he drinks the elixir. And in the next moment, he feels something different. He realizes the pain is gone, and that it's also giving strength to his body. He wonders if this is the elixir's effect. Time seems to return to normal, and that cowardly man looks for the boy. He looks around, asking where he is. Security guards appear, drawing attention, asking what they're doing there. As the men are approached, a Jumma runs to her son. That confused man wonders when he ended up over there. His companion tells them to get out while he swears. They walk away grudgingly, looking back at the mother and son. Daesung watches the men walk away. Sometime later, it was already night at that hospital. He wonders how that terminal window appeared out of nowhere at that moment. Lying in bed, he thinks he tried to summon that terminal several times, although he gave up after getting no response. Our hero remains lying down, reflecting on it, and says, "Terminal window mission Dan." He knows he needs his body back to normal as quickly as possible before the gangsters return again, and for that, he needs a mission. The Pantheon awaits its absolute ruler. Our hero realizes something is happening and wonders what it is. Floating in an unknown space, he wonders where he is, if this is a dream. His feet begin to reach the ground, and on the terminal it says that he descends from a divine pantheon, and that this diary of the absolute ruler will be used to create the avatar, completing and accelerating his implementation. Daesung repeats, complete the implementation, and that anyway, this feels like a dream, and asks if all he has to do is follow its commands, right? Smiling, he says then they will begin. On the terminal, it shows the second mission, which is to destroy a specific target, and the reward will be a chip with the memory of the absolute ruler. A bizarre creature appears there. Then taking a deep breath, he focuses, and with his eyes glowing, he moves into attack, landing a powerful punch on the creature. Right after that, he receives the third quest, which shows that the recovery of his body is in progress. He must run 10 kilometers to complete it. Daesung starts running, pushing himself as much as he can, and little by little, his performance improves. Sometime later, he receives a mission. Now it's already number 5. He needs to do 1,000 push-ups, and he'll receive another tonic with nutrients. Without thinking twice, he starts the mission. As he does it, the process becomes easier. On the terminal, it shows that the implementation rate is at 55%. Indignant, he says he's been doing this for 10 days and it's still at 55%, and that on top of that, the reward is always a nutritional tonic. He adds that he's tired of this and wants a proper mission. The terminal starts emitting a different sound and gives him mission 10. Practice like real life, he must defeat a target, and the reward is also a tonic for the absolute ruler. Daesung asks if the target is a screaming demon. A bunch of lightning bolts appear at that location, until a massive energy beam descends and hits the ground, and a demonic creature begins to emerge from within that portal, while the boy asks if that's also part of it. He remembers that he almost died to him in hell, and it's great to see him here. A huge creature appears before our hero. Guardy shows up roaring furiously. That enormous creature lunges our hero and strikes an attack against him. Daesung defends himself as best he can and thinks that if he keeps taking hits like this, his bones will turn to dust. Taking the pressure there on the ground, he leaps toward the creature, this time going on the offensive. But the monster is faster and hits him in midair, throwing him to the ground. Our hero curses as he starts to get up, wounded. He says he's getting wrecked by a screaming demon, and that it's embarrassing. Without mercy, the creature prepares to attack again. It unleashes a series of attacks on our hero, who dodges as best he can, until the monster seems to see an opening. And with a different move, it grabs our hero, who groans as he's being crushed there. Then he says that he remembers, and says he knows how it was that he got hit by him in hell, also how he was crushed. The furious creature squeezes our hero even harder. But suddenly, in a faster movement than expected, the creature's hand is sliced, and our hero appears with his weapon. Then he says he had forgotten that he could summon swords. The very irritated creature attacks again, and our hero attacks too, telling it to go back to hell, unleashing a flurry of attacks against the monster if he loses to it. On the terminal, it shows that the mission is completed and says that the implementation progress orc is 55%. The day begins to dawn in the human world, and the hospital still seems deserted. Someone opens the window of the room, and the light begins to shine into Ajuma's eyes. She gets up, rubbing her eyes, and asks who it is. Someone is standing in the room. Then, startled by what she sees, she asks if it's Daesung, and our hero appears against the light with his body in much better condition. Smiling gently, he says, "Mother." A little later at that hospital, a doctor seems to be examining our hero, doing some physical therapy exercises with him while the doctor and his mother observe. She asks if that's even possible and says she's sure that in the last test, they said it would take more than 6 months for him to be rehabilitated. She questions how he can move normally in just 15 days. But the doctor says that for now he has nothing to say, that the patient's medical condition is inexplicable. Ajuma asks the doctor if there's any chance that her Daesung could be. Confused, she asks, "That's it, isn't it?" The man says it's different from the usual symptoms, as she doesn't need to worry about that part. More relieved, she thanks God. Irritated, our hero tells the man to stop doing that, and the guy awkwardly apologizes, saying he's just really surprised by his improbable recovery. Ajuma says this is a relief. Daesung thinks he feels much more comfortable now. He doesn't feel any problem walking or moving his limbs. But even so, he still needs to return to his original body quickly. Arriving at the reception, he calls for his mother and sees her thanking the nurse, and the woman flattered asks what she did. She says it's nothing compared to what a mother did during all those 10 years, and that she went through a lot. The mother says it's really like a miracle. Looking at that scene, our hero thinks he can't imagine how hard it must have been for his mother to endure all of that for so many years. The nurse comforts his mother as she cries. Daesung feels the pain of that moment and thinks that he will protect her. Sometime later in the hospital bathroom, He stands in front of a mirror and says, "Pantheon." A terminal appears with the words, "Entering the Pantheon." And in the next moment, he's back in that alternate place. He asks if the implementation system can't be faster. And the terminal responds that he can freely select the difficulty of the missions and asks him to choose between easiest, easy, and medium. He thinks that somehow he's going to finish this all at once. Finally, he responds to the terminal, "Hell." On the terminal, it appears written that the difficulty has been adjusted to hell, and a surge of energy and rays begin to come out of the sphere. It begins to crack entirely, shattering into several pieces. From within emerges a person with a sword in hand. Playfully, our hero scratches his ear, saying that it's not noisy at all. That man looks at him with a malicious glare. And when he realizes the situation, our hero becomes a bit startled. Surprised, he says, "Oh, come on, no way this is." He realizes that one over there is him. On the terminal, it shows the absolute ruler Han Dasun, who is a doppelganger, and he must fight this target and win. Daesung appears to be in another dimension with his opponent. The boy explains that he receives something because of the absolute ruler of hell. The copy with his greatsword charges at the enemy. Our hero seems surprised by something and defends an attack from the other. Now with red eyes, the young man attacks from above downward. Another defense is made by the original Han. The copy pulls back, raising sparks that force Haesung to shield his face. He shows that he has become angry. The enemy charges again, giving no time for the other to strike back. It's another overhead attack, and the young man has already prepared his defensive stance. Another blow is, in fact, defended. Our boy notices that something there is a farce. The other seems quite excited about the fight. In the next moment, a series of strikes occur, and the original has to scramble to defend them all. However, one of the blows lands, leaving him wounded. Thoughtful, Han feels frustrated for not being able to handle the other's power and speed, and realizes that the longer the fight lasts, the more disadvantageous it becomes. The opponent seems ready to strike with his hand. It looks like he's going to land the hit. With an open palm, the copy makes a strong attack. In the spot where the attack hit, there is a lot of smoke, and the original is crouched there. Our hero supports himself on his sword embedded in the ground to stand up while coughing. Covered in injuries, he says the imposter is more authentic than the original and that he can't be happy about that. His eyes turn red, and the young man says the opponent will be defeated here and now. Then he activates a power that envelops his body called naturalization. The copy seems ready to continue the fight. Suddenly, an intense flash like a sun appears. The enemy charges again toward the other. His powerful downward attack seems to have sliced an illusion. As the strike doesn't hit the target, the boy turns to the other side looking for him. But just then, Han seems to materialize where the illusion was. And as he approaches the copy, he asks which way he was looking while placing his hand on his face. With that hand, the hero pushes the other Daesung's head down to the ground. Using his strength, he keeps the other Daesung's face turned sideways toward him. Now he grabs his greatsword and prepares to deliver the final blow while the opponent raises his arm to try to defend himself. The weapon doesn't hit the target because the young man managed to dodge with his neck. A black blur passes behind the original, and that was the imposter who used his speed to distance himself and reposition. The boy gives a wicked smile. Then he activates a sinister power that looks like black waves emanating from him. Surprised, Han realizes that his copy also had the ability to activate the naturalization power. With both hands on the greatsword, the young man charges. The two exchange attacks, and the battle remains at a stalemate. Irritated, Daesung tells the other to stop being such a pain, and the blows between the two continue. Suddenly, something happens to our hero, and he looks upward. The copy manages to strike Han in the back. Our boy, angry, can't believe the opponent hit him. The other Daesung pulls the sword upward while still on his back, and in doing so, opens a massive wound. The boy starts to sweat cold. In the next moment, he is back in the hospital bathroom and seems exhausted and shaking. It seems a lot of time has passed because someone is knocking on the door. Han is struggling to do anything and can't even make a sound. A janitor, likely wanting to clean, is on the other side of the door and asks why it's locked. While reaching into one of her pockets, the woman mutters to herself that this doesn't make sense. She grabs a key that opens that bathroom and is about to fit it into the handle. The key is inserted, and now she will unlock the door. Back to the battle. Daesung thinks he can't do something like that while kneeling and holding his injury. Our hero is very badly hurt and knows that if he loses, all his effort up until now will have been in vain. Pressing on his shoulder to stop the bleeding, he thinks to himself that he needs a way to defeat the other, or rather, himself in hell. A strange solution comes to his mind, and that is the inventory. Returning to the hospital, someone speaks to the woman, "Mrs. Kim, you were called to go to the 3rd floor," and she stops fiddling with the key and replies, "Oh, I forgot." The man emphasizes that she should go quickly, and the lady grabs her cleaning supplies while saying she's going. Our hero seems to have gotten lucky and can now remain in peace and forgotten in the bathroom. Back to the fight, Han is aware of how screwed he is and just thought of a way to solve his problem. A terminal informs that the inventory is active. Then a blue circle like a portal opens beside our boy. The young man stretches out his arm and sticks it into the hole. His opponent seems ready for another attack, dragging his sword on the ground. Daesung tells him to wait and smiles, explaining that the fight isn't over yet. It thinks that this is an item he received as a reward for completing a mission. He stored it, and this is exactly what he needs now. The terminal shows it's a nutrition tonic. It restores 20% of health stamina. He realizes that if it gives 20%, he can get back into the fight by drinking 5 of them. The opponent doesn't seem willing to wait and attacks him while he drinks the potions. Our hero manages to dodge at the last second and counterattacks with a punch to the monster's face. He is thrown back by the impact. Looking at his wrist, he thinks now he's ready. He reaches into the inventory again, thinking he doesn't want to waste time, so he'll get to 100% right away, grabbing a bunch of vials at once. While he's drinking, the opponent tries to kick him, but he manages to dodge even while drinking that stuff. He thinks that's the 3rd bottle now. And again, the creature appears in front of him, attacking. But this time, our hero is forced to use his weapon and defend against the attacks. Irritated by this, he thinks 4 or 5. He resumes trading blows with the creature, thinking he has recovered, but that it's still too much. Suddenly, the opponent makes a different move and grabs our hero by the neck. He holds Dasung like that, smiling with a wicked look. He delivers a fatal attack against our hero, who calls upon his inventory at that moment, and suddenly the sword goes into the opponent's belly. He doesn't understand what's happening. Then, looking down, he sees the sword entering through the inventory. While our hero defended himself using his inventory, he landed a fatal blow on his enemy. He finally falls to his knees on the ground. Dasung calls the inventory again while saying he's glad the move worked, says that finally the damn mission is over, and the terminal shows that his body returned to its original state, and the jade body is at 100. And also that the body was fully restored, and now he can use the health system even in this world. Something starts happening around Dasung. He wonders what it is and is happy to have his strength back. But he's covered in scars, and that reminds him of the hard work he had in hell. He finally orders the system to let him out. The terminal shows that he has unread messages and asks if he'd like to view them. Dasung tells the terminal, "Unread messages," and then clicks yes there. It shows that Hell welcomes the new monarch, and Dasung, but the absolute ruler has returned to Earth. And taking advantage of the vacuum the monarch left, the Celestials sealed this place with the Stone of Earth. The demons captured by the Celestial Pantheon are anxiously awaiting salvation from their absolute ruler. He is surprised they're seeing this information and asks if it's asking for help. Smiling, he tells them that he fought for 80 years to survive those guys, and because he became the monarch. Then he makes an offensive hand gesture and tells them all to screw themselves, that bastard can go to hell. Shouting, he orders the system to let him out of there. Elsewhere, thousands of demons observe a sphere of energy in the middle of everything. Sometime later at the hospital, our hero is exercising, counting 50. He does a light push-up in his room. It seems he is not recovering his power. Suddenly, the door opens and the doctor and the boy's mother appear. They stand there in shock at the boy. The doctor says it looks like her son's an awakened one, and Ajuma says that last time he was different from the other awakened ones. He explains that at the time there were no signs, so he thought he wasn't, but there's no other way to explain this than that he awakened. Ajuma wonders how this could have happened to her Dasung. The doctor says that's all he can do for her, but otherwise suggests she should visit the association, so she thanks him for everything he's done. Our hero notices them at the door, later, already in the city. In the car, our hero thinks about awakening and the association. He thinks he pretended not to notice because he was focused on the mission, but he realized that his mother is hiding something. He wonders what the hell happened on Earth during the 10 years he was asleep, while observing parts of the city that are in ruins, in a more distant residential area. She tells him to go ahead and wait, that she'll be back through the door next to them, and our hero agrees. Inside, someone is taking money from a drawer. Daesung enters and sees a girl crouched there. Looking seriously at her, he asks, "Who?" And the girl, caught by surprise, just stares at him speechless. His mother suddenly appears and says that he needs to eat, and asks what she wants to eat. She asks Jisoo where she's been, says she didn't answer the phone, and that she has no idea how worried her mother was. Our hero is surprised thinking about that name. He notices the empty drawer behind her, and in disbelief, Ajuma asks if she did it again. The girl hides her hands in her pockets, trying to cover it up, and without looking to the sides, he walks away. Daesung thinks that it doesn't matter how many years they were apart, remembering her calling him big brother, and wonders how he could not recognize his only younger sister. She says he seems to be in good condition, and that every day was hell for them. As she just walks past him, our hero stays there reflecting. Ajuma asks the girl where she's going again. Suddenly from the front gate, someone yells, telling their mother to open that door. Our hero looks seriously in that direction while the mother gets scared, and they say if she doesn't open in 3 seconds, they'll come in anyway. While kicking the door, they shouted to open it. Daesung just observes everything from inside. Meanwhile, in that quiet residential neighborhood, the 2 rough-looking men kick the gate of our hero's house, yelling for those bastards to open up. They shout, asking if she thought they wouldn't find her for leaving without saying a word, and Ajuma, desperate, begs her daughter to come to her. Still kicking, the man says he knows she's inside and orders her to open up. The guy asks if this is the house and says that bitch thinks she can hide again, and the other asks if they should break down the door. But suddenly Jisoo walks out of the house. Looking seriously at the men, she says they're making a hell of a racket. She turns and keeps walking, leaving the men confused. The older guy asks who she is, and the other man says she's like the daughter of the family. With the door open, they enter asking if she's home. That guy seems pleased with what he sees, She apologizes and says she couldn't contact them because her son was discharged from the hospital today. She says what she has with her right now is this, just this. Then suddenly her wallet flies into the air, scattering money everywhere. Dae-sung yells for his mother, while the man curses at her, asking if she thinks they came all the way there for such a small amount of money as he hits her and throws her to the ground. She falls to the floor a bit dazed. Our hero gets furious seeing that. Meanwhile, another man approaches and is surprised to see his companion thrown at his feet. Kneeling down, he asks the guy what's wrong with him, and the guy, all beaten up, just points forward, while the other looks at our hero saying, "What, who?" Dae-sung says he wanted to see those two, and they came to his house, leaving the man confused. Angrily, he asks if he's that bastard who couldn't even walk, and adds that he's not worth his mother's money. Heading toward the man, and he asks if the guy knows how he survived in hell. And while he was saying that's nonsense, our hero grabs him by the face, then explains that every time he receives something, he always paid it back. Punching the man in the face, he says, 10 times more, hundreds of times. Beating him without stopping, he says, definitely. The guy falls to the ground, and our hero says, come on, we still have a long road ahead. But he is already lying on the ground, badly injured. Seeing a wooden box, the man seems to get an idea. He grabs the chair, while calling him a fool. Charging at our hero, he asks if the other has lost his mind. Without hesitation, Dae-sung punches the man through the chair, throwing him against the gate. Then the other man pulls out a knife from his waist. Calling him an insolent youth, he asks if he sees that and says he's going to injure him. The man charges our hero, brandishing the knife, telling him to face him. Nimbly, our hero grabs the man's wrist and asks if it was that arm, while the man tells him to let go. Questioning if it was the arm that just struck his mother, he twists it effortlessly. The man screams in pain and drops the knife to the ground. He holds his hand, screaming, while the other man begins to get up. Annoyed, he asks if the boy thinks everything will be fine after this. Smiling, Dae-sung says that in that case, there is only one path to stop them from causing more problems permanently. The lady screams, telling him to stop. She tells Dae-sung to cease, while the two men seem to seize the opportunity. Then they flee through the neighborhood streets. They get into their luxurious car and drive off. The larger man asks if that was the same boy who was in the hospital, and the other says it looks like he grew, but it's the same person. Then he asks how someone who had been unconscious for 10 years could change like that. The thinner one asks what they should do since the boss ordered them to handle it personally. In response, he says that's not the problem. The real problem now is how he's going to do it. Seeing a girl walking nearby, he tells him to stop the car. The lady explains that he had a collapse, and they went to several hospitals because no one knew what he had. She sold the house and the store for that. She says she hoped he would wake up soon, but ended up losing the entire rental deposit and also took out loans from financial institutions. She explains that it was not easy to pay, not the principal, just the interest. Dae-sung asks if Jinsu is still a student and also what happened to her. The lady says she dropped out 2 years ago. Last year, she got injured while working in a restaurant, saying she wanted to help. She says her sister suffered a lot working at a gas station during the day and at a convenience store at night. Tense, he says she should have stopped her and that she should go back to school. The lady says she tried, but her daughter needed to survive to help him. But she made no progress. Something happened a few months ago and now she just wanders around. Suffering from that, he asks why she didn't just abandon him. And the lady tells him not to say that because they are family. He stands there, reflecting on that, until a phone rings. His mother bends down to pick up the device. She says it's them, and the boy asks for the phone. Dae-sung asks what, there's still work to do? Not believing what he's hearing, he says, what? And furiously calls the men cowards. The gangster's car drives through the city streets. The man says they messed with the wrong person and should have been more careful. He tells him to get 100 million today and wait for contact, because he believes with the boy's abilities he can get that amount in a day. He says not to try anything if he wants his sister back safely. Dae-sung grips the phone angrily. His mother, tense, asks what is happening. Our hero says he's going out but will be back home soon. She tells him to wait. She says it's dangerous, and if he hurts someone and ends up in jail, she adds that she wouldn't be able to bear it. He then thinks he can't solve this by eliminating them because this isn't hell. Suddenly, the terminal appears in front of him, and he stands there as his mother watches, not understanding anything. She calls for her son, a little confused. Then he says she doesn't need to worry. Smiling, he says nothing's going to happen. It shows that this is an adaptation of The Returned, and as a bonus, he will receive a basic ability. Dae-sung says if he's going to be given something like that, then please make it quick while he clicks on the terminal. Then the terminal shows some abilities like poison, stealth, hellfire, and summoning shadow specters. Dae-sung is a little unsure about which one to choose, and he realizes there's nothing there that he really liked. Sometime later in the city, the kidnappers go on their way while one of them asks if the boy wasn't going to come there and the other asks if he even knows where that is, and what to do when he gets there, since they have a hostage. From the top of the elevator, some energy bolts appear. Out of nowhere, the elevator shuts down. The big man asks if it blacked out and why it's blinking. Something starts to rise from the floor. He looks back confused, and startled he sees someone coming out of the floor asking what that is. Our hero appears there asking what he just said. Daesung says he said he wanted money, so he's there to give him that money. He clicks on the Summon Shadow Spectre option, and at that moment a dark energy appears in his hand. Thinking that this seems like it will do for now, he uses the Summon Shadow Spectre ability. A black liquid appears in his hand. In the next moment, he squeezes it tightly. That liquid drips and falls to the ground. Then something forms right in front of him. He rips a piece of his clothing while remembering that fight he had. He tells it to track this blood and open a path for him. Then he throws the piece of clothing at that shadow. And shortly after, he is inside the elevator with the men and his sister. One of the kidnappers, irritated, starts an attack, but our hero just dodges the blow, grabbing his face right after, and slamming him to the ground, defeating the guy. That big guy calls him a bastard, asking if he's an awakened. His sister stays there listening, surprised. Daesung asks the man what an awakened is. As the elevator door opens, that guy tells him not to talk nonsense, calling him a bastard again. Yelling, he orders the guys to give the guest a beating, saying the bastard is an awakened one to go all in. Then out of nowhere, Daesung strikes the man from behind, throwing him to the ground, defeated. One of the guys tells them to hold that bastard, and then all the men start advancing on our hero. Daesung comes forward imposingly toward them, causing all the lights in the place to flicker and shoot out sparks. The first one tells him to die and lands a direct hit, but suddenly, our hero transforms into a liquid in front of him, appearing further ahead, already among the men. With a backward kick, he counterattacks the guy, while another calls him a son of a bitch and tells him to die. Daesung easily dodges the attack, returning a massive punch to the man's face. Moving very fast, he advances among the men, attacking each of them. The lights seem to be interfered with by his power. Within seconds, all those gangsters are defeated on the ground. Daesung continues walking among them, returning to the elevator where his sister is. He kneels down near her and asks if she's okay. He removes the tape that was covering her mouth. He says she's going home, and his sister asks what he's going to do. Daesung says he's going to finish that business there and will meet her soon. As the elevator door starts to close, she stays there surprised, watching. He turns his attention back to the problem. The light flickers, indifferent to everything that happened in that place. Several people are lying on the ground, defeated. There is a stillness there, not even a mosquito in sight. Someone appears climbing the stairs. The person climbs with hands in pockets, with the hood of the coat up, and still has one of the sleeves torn. He's a bit behind two other people. A rough-looking group is uncertain about something. The guy tells the group that the others weren't even cockroaches. The guys don't understand what the young man means by that. Our hero finds it annoying how quickly the rest of the group lost. Suddenly, a window shatters at the top of the building as if it had exploded. Someone is making a call on someone else's phone. A tattooed person picks up the device. That guy says on the phone that he already told them not to call them while he's in the sauna. On the other end, someone says there's a problem, to come to the office. Yelling, the man asks if by chance he's a dog and how the person dares to give him orders, but they say it's urgent and please come because there's a monster there. The guy stays there holding his phone tightly, very tense, and ends up crushing his device. Getting up, he finishes destroying the entire phone. Back at the building, there's a broken window there, and a few guys properly wrecked on the ground. In a nearby room with the door slightly open, our hero approaches another one of the bad guys. The trembling man tells him not to come any closer, but he seems to ignore the request. That guy is terrified of the boy. Daesung just stares at the man coldly. Suddenly, an entire wall is smashed apart, and that catches our hero's attention. That huge man comes running toward him using some kind of attack. Very quickly, he reaches Daesung and grabs his face, and with great force, slams our boy to the ground. With a grim face, he says he made a big mess in there. He thinks neither his mom nor Jinsu were surprised when he used his power. Holding our hero's head to the floor, that brute asks where all his friends are. Daesung realizes they already knew these things existed, and that he didn't ask anything because he was focused on recovering. When he grabs the brute's arm, several shadows follow. The man notices and becomes frightened. He escapes from Daesung's hands, leaving only a piece of his suit. Even as he backs away, the shadows advance toward him, and while the man is scared, our hero recovers. Nim thinks that this guy did all that on his own. Daesung stands up and brushes himself off a bit, and with an indifferent look, he asks the man if he's an awakened or something. The guy says there's no point in backing down now, so he's going to send him to hell. With his best indifferent look, he asks, hell. And the big guy uses his power, showing off all of his muscles while destroying his fancy suit. Unexpectedly and very quickly, Daesung throws a punch at the man's face. That surprise attack completely wrecks the buff guy's face. He screams, asking if it would hurt less if he took his clothes off and got hit while spinning toward the wall. Smashed against the wall, he wonders how he was defeated like that so easily. Furious, he thinks this is unacceptable. But just as he was thinking of doing something, he takes a crushing stomp to the face. Stomping on the brute as if he were nothing, Daesung asks if that bastard knows what hell is. He says his family suffered a lot while he was gone. The man, knowing he has no chance, thinks this guy is a different level of awakened, and that the main thing now is to stay alive. Knowing he stands no chance, he begs him to stop, and asks to be spared, pleading if he wants money or he can give him anything he wants. With that cold stare, our hero asks, money, where is the money? Pointing, he says it's in the locker just ahead of the safe. Dae-sung looks over and sees a locker there. He asks the man if he's serious, if he's giving it up. He hopes he won't go back on his word. Our hero walks over there. As he goes for the money, the big guy takes the opportunity to escape. Dae-sung just watches the man leave and tells the guy that he'll die if he doesn't get lost fast. The guy screams an apology. In the parking lot of the place, someone gets in a car. Nim, all messed up, says the kid is a bastard and that it doesn't matter if he's just a kid, he's going to kill him. Then out of nowhere, our hero appears right next to the man's ear, saying he forgot one thing, the password. The guy stutters, almost crapping himself in fear. Dae-sung says how important that is, and that the important thing is that he can visit the guy wherever he goes from now on. Then he speeds off in the car, screaming. On the rooftop of the place, a portal opens from which a bunch of money falls to the ground. Seeing all that cash appear, he thinks it's a total of 532 million won. Then wonders how long he could live with that, how many apartments he could buy in Seoul. In a regular busy store in the city, someone says they like that one, the new top-of-the-line foldable phone, and will pay 2.99 million won in cash. Dae-sung picks up a phone and asks, "This?" The seller says it's the latest model and also the most popular among girls, and that he'll sell it for 1.99 million won. Thoughtful, our hero says, "Girls." Adjusting his glasses, the man wonders if he overdid it and says that if he feels pressured, he has an installment plan. But the boy says he'll take it, leaving the man surprised. He adds that he'll take both, throwing a brick of money on the table. The seller looks very happy with that, thinking it's wonderful. The guy thanked the boy a lot. Back at his house in that quiet neighborhood, he arrives carrying his little shopping bag. Smiling, he sets it down on the computer table. Someone yells telling Dae-sung it's time to eat, but he replies that he needs to go out. His mother opens the door asking, "What? Where?" But it seems he's already gone, and she keeps asking where he might have gone. Sometime later, already nighttime in the city. The night remains lively around there. Someone arrives at a local shop, and Chanho waves from a table, saying to Dae-sung that he's over there. Our hero smiles and waves back. Surprised, the guy thinks he looks like a different person than the one who was in the hospital. The friends enjoy a good dinner. They toast with their drinks, saying cheers. After drinking, the guy asks if he has any plans for the future. Dae-sung drinks and says, well. The guy says they're no longer immature high school kids, while it seems the drink is a bit strong for our hero. Then he asks how many apartments he could buy with 500 million won, and Chanho asks if he actually has 500 million won. But Dae-sung just chews without answering. Then his friend says that with that money he could rent a small apartment on the outskirts of Seoul. He asks how much it would cost to buy an apartment in downtown Seoul. Drinking his beverage, his friend replies that it would be around 2 billion won. Smiling, he tells Dae-sung to cheer up and says the world has changed since he went into a coma. But our hero just keeps drinking more, even though he seems to struggle a bit with the drink. Chanho says he heard something about him from his mother. It seems he got awakened. Dae-sung says that first he needs to understand what awakening means. Excited, the guy says he doesn't know because he just woke up. The night goes on in that pleasant city. He explains that sometime after he fell into a coma, portals suddenly began to appear. At first, these anomalies were discovered on a nationwide scale, being investigated and controlled. But one day, monsters started leaping out of the portals and the portals began to fracture. They started attacking humans. So they fought back with all kinds of weapons, but human weapons didn't seem to work. The damage just kept increasing. Dae-sung asks if it didn't work even with weapons or cannons. Chanho says he can assume that normal weapons don't work, and that over time they discover that only aura weapons, made from materials left behind by monsters, could work. The people who can use aura weapons are the ones called awakened. He adds that it's just like him. Looking at his phone, Dae-sung says he's an awakened like him. And his friend asks if he bought a foldable phone, then our hero asks if it's not cool, saying the seller told him it was a top-end phone. Smiling, the boy says that phone looks like it was released as a freebie recently, and asks if he's sure he actually paid for it. Our hero realizes he got ripped off while his friend teases him. Then he says that anyway, even if he doesn't use any aura weapon, he can use his power to enhance his body, which is also an attribute of an awakened. He says his body improves suddenly, and that he heard he stomped on the gangsters who came to his house recently. Annoyed, he says that if he wasn't an awakened, he asks if his friend would give him any money. Chanho is shocked by the statement. Irritated, he asks what the kid is trying to say. Then Dae-sung asks how much he earns, when suddenly, it seems reality starts to crack near them. The two friends look at that with concern, and a portal begins to open right there. Inside, we can see some creatures. The people around the area become terrified, saying, "A portal." A heavy monster appears, cracking the ground where it steps, and several more come out of that same portal. Strange creatures with different skin colors appear marching. It was an army of big, strong creatures beating their wooden weapons rhythmically, and a group of humans watches them from afar. People in the city look at the monsters, terrified. The creatures resemble orcs and are very fierce and angry. They are roaring, inciting each other to attack. Citizens scream for everyone to run to protect themselves, but two people stay behind to observe. Our hero and Chanho are the ones who stayed, and the friend warns that a sudden fracture occurred in the portal. Han wonders who those guys are because they were different from the enemies encountered in hell. He slams his foot hard on the ground so that it breaks and then picks up a piece. Throwing the rock into the air, Daesung asks if he should give it a try, and his friend doesn't understand his goal. The young man gets ready to throw the fragment and hurls it with all his strength like it's an Olympic discus throw. Even though it's a small piece, that object shatters into 1,000 fragments easily on the creature's arm. Thoughtful, Han is interested in knowing what kind of creature that is. At the spot where the stone hit, it became clear that it's not that their skin is hard, but rather that they use a protective field. The creature watches with great anger something beside it. Desperate, Chanho says that guns and cannons don't work against the enemies. One creature begins a charge, separated from the others. Raising its wooden weapon, it's about to strike the duo of friends. The guy in the suit already thinks it's the end for them, but he raises his arm and tucks his head in, trying to protect himself. While the young man has his eyes closed and is shielding himself, it seems someone took a hit. Chanho realizes something happened because he's still alive and unharmed. Shocked, the man sees as he looks to the side that the enemy was defeated with just one blow from his friend in a hand. Unfazed by the other's panic, says that punches work. Taking in the situation, the man thinks to himself, what a senseless thing, bare-handed punches. Two more opponents join the attack against the pair of friends. Daesung approaches one of them, already prepared for another powerful punch, and he lands it. Now the score is 2-hand, monsters 0. Our hero is unstoppable and takes down an impressive streak of them with ease. Chanho, observing his companion's feat, wonders if the other awakened above Class B. The young man looks behind him and sees a crowd standing still. He tells himself that now is not the time. Strangely, the city seems unaware of the horrors happening in the area where that enemy army appeared. Two enemies watch from the other side of the street, a crowd that is paralyzed from having seen them. Terrified, the people realize there are many monsters all around and think it must be the end for them. Like a true white knight, Chanho tells the group not to worry because he knows the way to the shelter through the sewers. He then asks everyone to follow him to get there safely. But to ruin his plan, more creatures appear. From the expressions of the people, they think this must be the end. The furious enemies prepare to attack, and suddenly there's a stampede and the population runs in panic in all directions while one little girl stands frozen. The creatures don't care and begin their charge. A child, crying in terror, calls for her mother. The beasts reach some people and they scream, begging for someone to save them. One enemy is now about to strike the little girl who is trembling. She's slightly hunched over, her face soaked in tears, her feet are so high that she no longer even calls for a parent. The creature brings down its hammer to strike the girl, but she's confused when it doesn't hit her, because Chanho saved her by leaping in and pulling her out of the way. In the next moment, a powerful blow hits the creature from the side, shattering its teeth. The attacker was Daesung, who defeated the beast with an incredible knee strike. Relieved, the man in the suit is happy to reunite with his friend, and he shields the little girl so she won't see everything that just happened. That enemy falls to the ground like a tree with a loud crash, and the young man lands on his feet beside it. Han tells his friend he's still in the opening and urges him to hurry up and get out of the way. Chanho smiles in gratitude for the boy having saved both of them and understands he needs to get out of there quickly, while the child keeps crying. The man in the suit shouts for the people to hurry to the sewer because there's no more time. Meanwhile, in what looks like another part of the city, cars pass by on the street. Someone is using their phone to stream live so that others can interact, and the person asks if the others are seeing what they're seeing. The citizen is showing our boy destroying some enemies on the sides of buildings. In the chat, people are amazed by Han's performance and someone asks if it's real while others are shocked he's doing everything alone. The guy who's filming explains to the audience that he came down from the building he was in after hearing they were surrounded by monsters. The boy realizes that Daesung is in a dangerous situation, and he really is because new enemies keep appearing. The worker yells while still recording that there's one monster after another. Han didn't notice and took a huge hit to the torso, a blow that sent him flying and crashing into the side of a car parked nearby. Seeing this happen, the young man imagines there's no way to survive that hit. Our hero is sitting with his back against the car and his head lowered. Once again, the chat goes wild, also wondering if the boy is alive, and someone says they won't play a tribute song just yet. For a moment that feels eternal, Daesung still hasn't started moving and everyone wonders what will happen now. Elsewhere, the manhole cover is lying beside the entrance to the sewer. Down below, a desperate woman finds a child who seems to be someone she knows. The girl runs toward her and the woman is her mother, the same one the little girl had been calling for so much while they were on the street. Chanho feels grateful for helping her get there. The child apologizes for having wandered off, and the man in the suit feels like he fulfilled his goal of finding the mother. A man asks the young guy if he's really going to return to the surface, and for a moment he doesn't know how to respond. Then the boy remembers his friend, who is still up there fighting all those evil creatures. Our hero lies there slumped on the ground, leaning against the car as the monsters approach. The creature gets closer, and he doesn't react. One of them looks at him with an evil glare. That guy tells Mim it looks dangerous, and in the chat they say it's the end, that the guy did his best, and may he rest in peace. Grabbing its club, the creature prepares to strike, hitting our hero directly. The boy watching covers his eyes so he doesn't see it. While the creature's attack destroys everything in its path, the monster is surprised by what it sees. The car is all wrecked, but our hero was gone. Suddenly, behind it, Daesung appears, hitting the other monsters. Then that guy says the big bro is alive. That's really him. No way. Daesung thanks the creature, saying that thanks to it, he managed to restore his mana to a certain point. Smiling, he says, "No pain, I will give you a painless death," and charges at it with a swift move, taking down some monsters along the way. In the chat, people ask to zoom in because the image isn't very clear, and he thinks they're bastards, asking if they want him to go to hell. Until one of the viewers offers 5 million one more. The guy is shocked by that, thinking it's 5 million, or better yet, it's 10 million, while the chat goes wild. Nervously, he thinks it doesn't matter how good the money is. How could he go over there? While facing all those monsters, our hero thinks that mana consumption is no joke. Dodging a creature's attack, he prepares to strike, landing a punch on the monster's chin. Daesung rises with his attack, taking the opponent's head up with him. Nearby, the chat keeps offering things in exchange for a good photo, and others are just enjoying the video, until one asks for more information by email and says he'll pay for it. The boy seems to be doing very well. Several notifications start popping up on his device, while he says he's not going. The message says that besides the photo deal, if he can provide detailed info about the guy, he'll get a 40 million won bonus, so get in touch. Happy as ever, he asks himself 20 million elsewhere, in a tall building. Someone watches and says that just as the leader said, first it goes up to 20 million and then to 40 million in the future. Smiling, a man says the YouTubers are coming, and another says his clan is heading to the scene, so maybe they can join him. Smiling, he says he was a scout for a long time, but never felt like this before, and that guy is really strong. Back at the combat scene, our hero stomps on the creature and looks around at the other monsters. Those creatures seem scared of him. Mocking them, Daesung says the bugs are scared, when suddenly, something hits one of their heads. It was one of the big ones coming up behind. He stares down our hero defiantly. Nearby, the boy thinks that's a lot of money to turn down and begs the guy to look over there. From behind the car, hidden, he says that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The monster points its finger at our hero, ordering the attack. Daesung curses, realizing they're coming endlessly, and that his mana is already almost drained. Arriving next to the guy suddenly, Chanho asks what he's doing and why he hasn't evacuated yet, nearly giving the guy a heart attack. The support gear with the phone and microphone fly to the ground. He asks if the guy is crazy to be there in that situation. In the chat, people ask what happened to the chicken guy, and tell him to rest in peace. Grabbing the man, he commands him to get inside that built-in quickly. Desperate, he thinks, no, my money. Looking at his gear being left behind, he curses and swears at the situation. Suddenly, the foot of a creature crushes everything. The chicken guy and Chanho watch the approaching monster in fear, and it seems like the chicken guy had a breakdown there. Desperate, Chanho pleads for the guy to snap out of it, asking what's going on. The creature, not caring at all, gets ready to attack. But luckily for them, this monster also loses its head. Something passed by and took the creature's head away. Chanho watches this completely shocked. He looks at his friend, who's on top of a pile of monster corpses. Excited by it, Daesung says, "Nice try." He asks why Chanho came back, and his friend explains that he returned because he was worried. Daesung says he has somewhere to go for the next 20 minutes and asks if he can wait, and the guy says it's fine, the clans should arrive soon. Seeing our hero's curiosity, he says they can talk about anything he wants to know when he returns. On the terminal, it says the implementation was 100% completed. Due to the massacre, the Pantheon items can now be used in the present world, and asks if he wants to enter now. Our hero confirms on the terminal. Then a portal opens in front of him, leaving his friend shocked. He thinks the guy can open portals and wonders what the hell happened to him. Daesung walks through the portal, arriving on the other side in the Pantheon again. He says he can't believe his body turned out like this because of those fries, and asks it to tell him about the state of his mana. On the terminal, it says the mana of the absolute ruler is implemented at less than 10%. He thinks this sucks and that it wasn't the weapon's fault, then asks it to quickly tell him how he can increase his mana. Answering his question, it tells him to please organize the diary of the absolute ruler. After that, time and place will be organized into a quest, with a proportional reward upon completion. Daesung asks if it means the diary he wrote in hell, and that he wrote every day to stay sane. On the terminal, it asks if he would like to organize his diary. Then he replies yes. Suddenly, a book appears before him. On the terminal, it shows that organization has begun. Energies begin to emanate from that diary. The organization process continues, while on the terminal, it shows that recording has begun. All events until now return to our hero. The diary suddenly catches fire, until finally the recording ends. Placing his hand on his head, Daesung says he feels sick, and asks if they could go back to the part about the mana. Daesung says, page 16 to the Forest of Predators. On the terminal, it shows page 16, year 575 days, the event is being recreated. He stands there in the middle of that place, engulfed in mist. Meanwhile, back in the city, Chanho and the chicken guide are going up some stairs. The guy thinks maybe this addressee is known as Hang and that he recorded it. Then he calls the man's attention and asks if he has any idea where the hero Hang went. Chanho asks why someone said they pay him money for a picture of Da-sung's face. The guy says nothing, when suddenly a loud noise and they look up. Chanho says there might be survivors on the roof, so they should proceed quietly. The guy keeps climbing when his phone rings. He grabs the device to see what it is. There it shows a message from Junyang, the leader of the Seoul clan, saying that since it's the weekend, they'll be delayed in arriving and that they should evacuate the area quickly. Worry, he hopes his friend returns soon. Meanwhile, in that alternate world, Da-sung waits. On the terminal, it says the forest of predators has been recreated, and due to the dimensional seal, information about this place cannot be shown. Our hero realizes he is very calm. On the terminal, it shows that the mission difficulty is medium, and he needs to eliminate the celestial beings occupying the forest, with the reward being a mana increase. He stands there wondering where they are and doesn't seem to notice the huge creature emerging. The being says it has detected an unidentified intruder and will remove it. Then from above, it launches a beam at our hero. Dae-sung manages to dodge the attack. As the beam passes, he maneuvers through the area, suddenly stopping further ahead. That grotesque celestial creature observes him. On the terminal, it shows that it is the White Colossus of Justice, a mechanical life form, and says this is an autonomous weapon created by the beings of paradise. Our hero repeats beings of paradise while observing that thing. The enormous monster charges again, attacking. The fist of the celestial creature hits the ground but misses. Thinking he's running out of time, he decides to end it quickly. He lands a massive blow on that creature. His attack completely cracks its face, throwing it flat on the ground afterward. Dae-sung lands on the ground right after. But it seems it's not over yet. From one of the celestial weapon's hands, elongated fingers extend toward him. Dae-sung just watches the attack approaching. Thinking that it's annoying, he decides he'll crush it completely. Then he gains momentum and charges toward it. The celestial monster attacks him with its stretched limbs while he keeps advancing without being hit, while those things come at him. Dae-sung prepares his attack against the weapon of heaven. This time, he hits the monster right in the stomach. Our hero punches a hole through that thing, finally breaking it into several pieces. The Colossus collapses to the ground in a cloud of dust. Looking over his shoulder, he says, "Okay, next." A red sphere emerges from the remains of the creature, when suddenly something catches our guy's attention. Back on Earth again, Chanho and his companion reach the top of the building. They open the door and find several dead people there. The guy looks at it worriedly, while the boy behind him seems terrified. The two look at that pile of dead people on the rooftop. It seems one of them is in a dire state, but still alive. The boy asks if that person is still alive. They run to the man leaning against the ledge. Chanho crouches near him and asks if he's okay. With difficulty, the man says, "Could." The guy pays attention to him, asking what. Then he completes by saying, "behind." Chanho is shocked by the revelation of that last word. And from atop that building, a huge demon watches him as he swallows hard. The monster looks at him with an evil gaze. The attendant says he needs to move him, but Chanho says it's too late and that he must stay still until told to move. Saying yes, he asks what he saw. And when he realizes what it is, he's terrified. That huge demon continues to watch them. Chanho tells him to wake up and jump to the door when he says now he doesn't want to be torn apart there, so he should get a grip. Still very scared, the boy comes to his senses. That huge creature roars from above and suddenly jumps down. Then the guy yells, "Now." Meanwhile, in the forest of predators, our hero observes that red sphere full of energy. Wondering what that is, the sphere says it's beginning its self-restoration. Dae-sung gets worried about that and questions restoration. It says the restoration is at 10% and the analysis of the intruder's attack pattern has been completed. The performance of the main body will be improved. Running very fast, Da-sung charges at the monster. Getting close to it, he prepares a big punch, and then hits the red sphere squarely. With the power of the attack, he opens a hole in it. Then he jumps over the sphere, landing directly on top of it. The terminal shows that the restoration progress is at 3%. Within a different look, he scoffs, saying the thing is annoying, and begins attacking it again. He continues non-stop using his power. On the terminal, it shows the restoration is at 40%. Dae-sung keeps punching until the object begins to crack, but the terminal still shows that the restoration is at 55%. More and more, the sphere cracks, and the restoration doesn't stop now at 65%. Several error messages appear amidst the chaos of energy beams everywhere. The restoration is at 30% while our hero keeps punching relentlessly. Angrily, he throws a punch yelling for that thing to go to hell. But suddenly, the beam of energy comes toward him, and he manages to dodge it just in time. Looking at the place it came from, he sees 3 more celestial weapons approaching. Those things look at our hero, and on the other side, there seem to be more of them. Then several beams begin to cross the air. Dae-sung skillfully dodges, jumping off the sphere. With an acrobatic leap, he avoids the energy beams. Landing on the ground, he starts to regain his composure. He curses while looking at his new enemies. On the terminal, it warns that the restoration is at 95%. Then with a burst, he charges forward again. Those divine machines begin firing their beams at him, but our hero increases his speed, leaving all of it behind without giving them a target. He charges again at the machine that's almost fully recovered, and the fury in his eyes alongside the terminal showing 98% recovery progress. Daesung delivers a huge blow to that thing, this time creating a massive hole in it. The celestial machines surround the area watching. Steadying himself on the ground, our hero braces after all that power. The guy thinks there's no end to this and that he needs to find another way. He realizes he should look into the recorded memories because there might really be a way to end this. He places his hand on his head, but then he feels his brain tingling and then he feels sick. But suddenly something comes into his awareness, and now he can remember saying that maybe it's possible. Chan-ho yells for the guy to run to the door and the boy obeys in fear. Meanwhile, the creature jumps down from above the entrance screaming and brandishing its weapon, while the two run however they can. The monster's club hits the ground, missing everyone. It looks back confused, searching for its easy targets. Furious, it roars and goes after the boys. Already inside the entrance, Chanmo tries to hide while the monster approaches. That thing shoves its huge hand inside trying to grab them. Terrified, they try to back away as best they can. The creature's sharp claws retreat, scraping the ground, while they stay there quietly, trying to hide. Panting, Chanho says it's time to go down now. Somewhere else, something heavy hits the ground, and those celestial machines continue fighting against our hero. The monsters keep attacking him relentlessly as he moves forward, dodging. Those creatures persist but can't land a hit on our hero. Daesung keeps advancing, thinking he just needs a little more. Using the trees, he gains more momentum. Stepping on one last tree, he hits a final burst, spinning through the air. He continues flying through the air, focused, until he reaches a specific point, thinking that's the place. He keeps running in the opposite direction of the creatures, until reaching a point he stops. He begins to compose himself at the place he arrived, and from a distance, he sees those celestial creatures approaching. The heavy monster breaks the ground as it walks, and they form an arc around our hero. One of them says it is at a safe distance from the target and will begin the attack. Mocking them, our hero says they took a bit too long, calling them damn bastards. The celestial creature cracks the entire ground, and altogether they begin to emit a bunch of sounds. With an excited smile, Daesung says that's why this forest is called the Forest of Predators. Suddenly, something enormous bursts from the ground, breaking everything, and it falls right on top of those celestial creatures. Then our hero says, "It's a swamp whale, you bastards, and they eat everything they see. That they'll spend a good time in its belly because it digests everything very well." On the terminal, it appears that the absolute ruler has fulfilled all conditions, and that the ruler's physical abilities have been restored. Daesung stands there feeling his power return. Then evaluating himself, he says his mana has definitely increased. On the terminal, it shows that the mission was a success, and that he received a bonus reward, a dagger of judgment. Our hero is impressed as the weapon begins to materialize in front of him. It shows that it is a sacred weapon used by the celestial judge to punish enemies, made from the carcass of white golems, in addition to being very powerful and having a remote control. Daesung repeats the fact that it has a remote control while doing a test. Then he throws the dagger forward. It circles the area in front of him, then returns to his hand. Satisfied with that, he says it will be very useful. Then lowering it, the weapon begins to disappear the same way it appeared. Our hero decides that now it's time to return. A portal appears in front of him. On the news, two reporters talk about the portal that opened and say it was total chaos, asking the professor what he thinks, and he responds that the problem is the hunters. He says that hunters are like public servants, slow to respond, go on vacation. How can the population have faith in a group like that? And that portal fractures happen at any time without respecting holidays, so the other reporter says the association should be held accountable for it. Meanwhile, a car speeds through the city streets, and someone inside watches the interview on their phone. Very irritated, a man says they're crazy, and that hunters who belong to an association don't earn as much as the clan folks. He continues saying they're not prophets, that there's no way to tell when something will happen, and calls out to his brother beside him. The well-dressed guy tells him to stop whining, that if they can't get through this, there won't be a team, especially since he's their leader. He keeps staring at the phone, annoyed, until a breaking news report appears saying a mysterious hunter showed up and took care of the whole problem at that location. Meanwhile, the car continues on its way, and somewhere else the chicken boy says, scared, that it's terrible how many dead bodies were on the rooftop. Chan-ho says he doesn't know, but that it's terrible, and that now they need to wait for a rescue. Suddenly, a very loud noise startles the two boys. They peek over the counter where they're hiding, and it seems like the whole place is shaking. Chan-ho wonders if the hunters have arrived. The next moment, there's a massive crash, filling the area with dust. They try to protect themselves from it. Scared, he thinks it's the monsters. Then Daesung appears saying he's starving and that they shouldn't get in his way as he steps on what's left of that creature. Relieved and happy, the boy calls out his friend's name. Then smiling, our hero asks if he's late. Half in disbelief, he asks what's wrong with him. Then Daesung hugs himself, groaning, and Chan-ho asks if he's hurt. Our hero asks if he's really there, and the chicken boy replies yes. Then he says to prepare some meat because he's very hungry. leaving only two boys who just went through a terrible ordeal totally stunned. Terrified, they ask if he wants to eat meat there, and insist if he really wants to eat meat there. The place really seems to be a mess. Looking at that meat, Daesung asks if it might be monster blood, but says it's fine, he's okay. The two boys are horrified by the sight of Daesung eating, and they seem a bit disgusted by it. Suddenly, someone enters the place saying there are survivors over there. Then the soldier asks if everyone is okay in there, and the attendant happily thanks God, saying he's going to survive. The soldier looks a bit surprised at the scene, while the boy thanks him a lot. Looking at our hero eating, the soldier says that in this situation, he stammers, speaking somewhat confused. Chanho greets the man, thanking him for the hard work they've done that night, and says he missed the chance to go to the shelter, so he's happy you're there. Trying to cover for him, he says his friend tends to act like that when he's in shock. Grabbing his friend, Chanho says he needs to go to the hospital for a checkup first, and our hero asks what's wrong. But the soldier says they can't just leave, that he'll guide them to the exit and to follow him. Then the boy says yes and pulls something from inside his suit, saying that if he has any problems to contact them, and that he thinks his clan will have work too, showing a Seoul clan team leader card. The soldier realizes he belongs to a clan, so it's okay, and says he'll guide them to an exit. Then Chanho thanks him for that. Sometime later, the military are all over the place, and those two hunters from the car also arrive there. The leader stammers, asking what the hell is that. Yelling at the young man, he calls him a bastard, saying if he has time to throw up, he should check for survivors first, and the boy says yes, apologizing. He says he's a hunter to follow the soldier, who agrees with the idea. The leader thinks, dear God, what kind of kid is that? Just as brutal and strong as the monsters. Elsewhere, a car drives through the city streets. Chanho says they should sleep at his place tonight, but our hero says no, that people must be worried at their home. His friend says he's happy he's concerned about that, but if they see him in this state, they'll be 100% shocked. Daesung looks over his blood-covered condition, then says he'll contact his mom and his friend so they can get cleaned up and eat some chicken. Sometime later in a tall building, our hero looks surprised by something. His friend tells him to clean up and come back, that he's going to order some chicken. Sometime later, the feast is served. Surprised, he asks what all that is. Then Chanho says it's been 4 months since he had meat, so they should eat well today. Daesung asks if he said he made a bunch of money, and he's right to think he's a hunter. Remembering the conversation they had earlier, the guy says he's correct, and that in today's world, they're not much better than scammers, and that's what people say. Then he asks why, if he's thinking of becoming a hunter. Our hero just makes a noise with his mouth full, and Chanho says that's well thought out, that if he goes to an association and makes that decision, he'll probably become something above rank B. He says that if he does well, he can guarantee he'll reach rank A. Daesung questions rank B, rank A, and his friend explains it's a classification, and that if he's rank B, he can join a big association or clan, makes around 3,000, but if he's rank A, things are even better. Curious, he asks if there's anything above rank A, and his friend confirms that yes, there is. There's only rank S, and that there are only 5 of those, just 5 among 2 million awakenings. Chanho jokes with him, asking if he's trying to become the 6th rank S, but says he's just messing around. But he says not to expect that much, that if he manages to reach at least rank A, he should already be satisfied, and that in Korea, a rank A is something solid. He finishes asking if he's sure he wants to become a hunter, and our hero confirms, so Chanho says he should trust him. And raising a toast, he says he'll make him great. Daesung thinks become a hunter. Meanwhile, in another tall building, in a slightly more luxurious room, someone is eating a fancy meal, and says, so a crazy debtor. He adds that the other man should listen while he eats, and that they'll try again. Then he repeats, a crazy debtor, and asks if he's saying that his organization was destroyed by that man. The other man in the room confirms yes. Wiping his mouth, the guy says that if that's true, it's embarrassing, and that if he could barely survive, he asks why didn't he just run away? Why did he bother coming to tell them? The man tries to respond, stammering. Fearfully, he manages to answer that there's nowhere to go. That's Lee Seok, general of the Manhwa clan, and he says it would be foolish for a gangster to go to the police, right? And the man, scared, stammers, yes, yes. He questions why he's been trembling so much since earlier, and if it's because of this gangster looking at the man who's dead on the floor. That guy is dead there, and parts of him are missing. The gangster looks at it, trembling even more. The general remains there with his hand on the man's shoulder while he watches the scene. That gangster begs, please not to kill him. And that leader says it's fine, that they just need the money they were supposed to collect, while the guy only stammers. The general says it doesn't matter how much the office was robbed, that he still has hidden funds. But the man says he doesn't know because he was in the back. Very tense, the man says that's the truth, please believe him. That general just watches closely, and smiling he says yes, that he believes him, and the gangster says yes. Stammering and sweating a lot, he thanks him. Then the general says he's grateful too. And suddenly, using energy, he smashes his head. The man looks coldly at the gangster as he does this, at liquid gushes from the eliminated man. Covered in blood, the general steps away, then turns his attention to the document on his desk, and picking it up, he asks someone to take care of that guy. In the image on the documents, it shows our hero. He adds to take care of him properly. A person who was in the corner of the room says yes. Sometime later at the Korean Hunter Association, the sign shows the initials K-Shay, and our hero is arriving there at that moment. Chan-ho says he should first go to the hall and tell the staff he's there for an awakening test, and then they'll guide him themselves. Dae-sung says, okay. And not to forget to use proper titles, because if he speaks informally to anyone, he'll look like a crazy person, and the boy says okay, while his friend tells him not to cheat. He finishes saying he's going back to work and to message him when the results come out. Looking at his proud friend, he says he's nervous. Meanwhile, our hero walks confidently toward the building. He notices some staff smoking and drinking something outside. He sees others there, thinking they look like people who came to be tested. He passes a man who seems upset, saying this is embarrassing. He thinks that, like Chan-ho said, this will bring money, but it's quite a hassle. Already inside the building, he arrives at laboratory number 3. Several people seem to be waiting inside. Looking at his number, he sees it's number 9. Thinking that hunters really are popular, he's 9th, so it shouldn't take long. Suddenly, his phone rings. A message from his mother asking if he's still with Chan-ho, asking when he'll come home, that she needs to rest because her back hurts. Looking at the phone, he thinks it's better not to tell his mother. So he tells her he's still at his friend's house, that he's going to shower and head home slowly. His worried mother asks if he ate, and tells him to come home and eat, that his sister went out to buy food for their lunch. Happy with that, he thinks he'll return as soon as possible. Suddenly, a door opens and a woman in heels appears. She calls the next one, number 9, please. Inside, an old man says that he's the lunatic and who's calling him a lunatic, that he's definitely an awakened one. The staff member apologizes, but since the meter read a negative value, and the old man yells, "What?" asking how many times he said that the meter is trash, and if that's how the association works nowadays. People in the reception complain, saying their ears hurt and that he should leave. Doesn't he realize there are more people waiting? The guy insists, saying all his hair fell out overnight, and asks if they're saying that's not a side effect of awakening. He's sure he awakened. At the door, people try to hold back their laughter, and Dae-sung wonders why this has to happen right when it's his turn, and that they're waiting for him to come have soup. The miserable man says that if it's like this, he's not leaving the place, that he'll file a direct complaint with the branch manager. Suddenly, someone grabs the man by the head, calling, "Hey, you." Removing the hand, he asks who dares. Very intimidatingly, Dae-sung asks if he can't see there are people waiting behind him. The man nearly soils himself in fear, and stammering, he tries to explain that the meter is broken, that he's sure he awakened. Dae-sung asks if he's sure the meter is broken, and a man in a suit says let him check, since he's an awakened one. He then approaches the machine. Placing his hand over the sphere, a bunch of energy starts to appear. He stays there while the machine begins to work. The sphere now emits a green light. Then he says it's green, that it's a rank C, and as the man can see, the machine is working fine. Tense, the old man stammers, saying, this is. The woman tells him there are others waiting and for him to leave now. Finally walking out, the man still yells from the door, saying he's sure the meter is wrong. The receptionist apologizes for any unfortunate incident that may have occurred and says he can enter now. Already tired of this, Dae-sung says yes. The woman asks her senior if that person will have a high score. Joking with her, he tells her to stop worrying and get back to work. But the woman thinks that with the pressure from earlier, if he's an awakened one, that he'll be at least rank B or higher. In the morning at Keishae, the Hunter Association, in the branch manager's office, there's a deep silence outside the room, but inside something seems to be happening. The manager asks what's going on, and someone responds that he should go to exam room 3 on the 6th floor right now. Caught off guard, the man asks again what happened, and the other person says mysteriously that it would be better if he saw for himself. A few minutes later inside the elevator, the supervisor is going down the floors. He tries to piece things together before reaching the room. Well, if it's a problem in the exam room, could that S-level specimen have shown up? Trying to calm himself, he tries to push that thought out of his head, saying that if it's a big deal, they'll fight to prevent the specimen from being taken by others. His daydreams are interrupted as soon as the elevator stops and announces that the supervisor has reached his destination. On that floor, a group of people is observing something, and one of them says it's the first time they've seen that kind of thing, and another asks what day it was. The manager arrives in the hallway and finds it strange that everyone is just standing there. He starts approaching and asks to be excused as he makes his way through the crowd. When he gets close enough, the man is shocked by what he sees. On top of a stand, a glass object is broken and emitting smoke. Looking more closely at the entire environment, 2 other glass objects are also broken. The man in the suit observes and says, "What the hell?" A visibly nervous employee approaches while adjusting his tie, and the manager asks what happened there. The 2 men direct their gaze toward our hero, and the young employee begins his explanation. That person over there places hand on the crystal ball, says the young man, while Dae-sung remains silent. He says that at first the color of the crystal showed some variation. We get a brief glimpse of the object's reaction moments before. Han asks if that's normal while the ball displays mists and shifting colors. An employee explains that yes, that happens sometimes, but something strange is going on. Suddenly, the crystal presents several cracks. That young man gets worried, not understanding what's happening, just like our boy who has no idea either. The next moment, An explosion occurs and lots of smoke escapes through the closed door, scaring those who are outside the room. The door is quickly opened to let the smoke out. A researcher covers her face while coughing a lot, and Han is standing in front of the crystal, now shattered along with another nearby. Another employee, sitting on the floor, barely knows what to think or say about what just happened, and the hero simply observes the broken crystals. The young man calls out to our boy, asking if he's okay. Han remains silent, his face sweating. The manager asks if the meter is malfunctioning. Uncertain, the employee asks if it would make sense for all 3 crystal balls to turn out like that, and the man agrees it would be too much of a coincidence. Pensive, Han wonders if the company will demand compensation and wants to know what to do now, if he should wait for the results. The young man agrees they should wait for the information. The man expresses concern because, considering what happened, all golden crystal balls would be destroyed. Then he turns to our hero and seems like he's going to ask a question, and the other 2 wait to hear what he'll say. The manager begins to speak, choosing his words carefully. He believes they should conduct a judgment limit test, and Daesung doesn't really understand what this judgment limit idea means. Since the crystal balls can't be used for assessment, the branch will judge the young man through the license test. And the man concludes his explanation by saying that this is the system that determines the final classification. Our boy asks if that test is reliable. The young employee says that this classification is based on the clarity of certain conditions and asks him to feel at ease about that part. Han understands there's nothing he can do and confirms that he understands the situation. Making a respectful gesture to the young man, the chief asks him to take care as he leaves. Daesung exits the room and walks quietly down the hallway. The manager puts a hand to his head, saying he can't live with his name. "Mr. Manager, the crystal ball meter is responding with energy from another world," says a researcher, and the man agrees, asking why. The woman adjusts her glasses and begins to say that perhaps something isn't exactly in a specific way. The otherworldly energy that Han possesses within him is limiting the function of the crystal, and because of that, it caused them to explode. In the middle of the woman's explanation, the other employee sneezes. He quickly apologizes, but the researcher gets annoyed at being interrupted. The manager asks if what the woman meant was that our hero is an SS class, and she believes that to be the case. The young man agrees with that conclusion, saying that the world feels fantastical these days. Regarding that, the woman replies that the young man is not an SS class god, and strangely, the shards of the crystal ball emit lightning. Back on the city streets, Daesung is talking to someone about the experiment results, and the response is limits. The person on the call finds that strange and asks if the meter froze, and Han says no. He adds that the meter is broken. On the phone, the person asks if the boy messed with it, but soon backtracks, believing it wouldn't break like that. Our boy responds negatively and is asked if he places hands on the meter as instructed by the evaluators, but the object is broken. The young man says yes, and then the person wonders how they didn't foresee that 5 minutes earlier, and finally explains that the only way to get a high ranking is by doing well on the exam. Daesung stops walking for a moment and responds dryly that he doesn't care about achieving such a result. The person responds that they understand and asks Han to get home safely, ending the call by saying they'll send the test date later. Still standing, the hero reflects on the things he heard. What a long day it's been, and to think it's not even over yet. Suddenly, something catches his attention and he turns to the side. Near the top of a building under construction, a strong light appears. Someone has just taken aim with a sniper and fired at the young man. The assassin looks down at him, thinking he doesn't seem that strong after all, and that it doesn't matter. No matter how strong and awakened one is, it only takes one bullet to pierce through. She places her finger on the trigger, while observing him through the scope. Startled, she realizes something. She thinks she doesn't stand a chance and wonders if she's been discovered. That can't be. No active hunter has ever been able to see her. There's no way someone who looks so pathetic could detect her. Looking at the girl, our hero tells her to look over there. Irritated, he says, right here. Still in disbelief, she thinks, nonsense, what, you noticed me, and I can even hear his voice from the street. She decides that first and foremost she'll retreat, but suddenly hears a voice in her head telling her to shoot, and that frightens her. Nervous about the situation, she fires. The projectile heads toward the boy. As he looks in her direction, suddenly, an explosion happens at the location, and a cloud of dust rises there. Excited, the assassin says she got him, but suddenly sees something that surprises her. Daesung is in the same spot, surrounded by a hole around him. She thinks it can't be, that it's nonsense, that this isn't a regular bullet, it's an aura bullet. Down below, our hero keeps staring at the girl. Frightened, she wonders what the hell he is, and that there's no time. She needs to get out of there. Dropping everything, she starts to run away. But suddenly something comes flying toward her, hitting her leg squarely. She screams in pain from the blow, and collapses to the ground, unable to continue. In an instant, our hero is already up there looking down. Terrified, the assassin looks at him. He apologizes but says her bullet hit him right there, though it didn't manage to kill him. The weapon lodged in the girl begins to disappear, as she draws another hidden weapon. Quickly getting up, she already has the gun in hand. She asks if he said he's okay after being hit by her aura bullet. Tense, she asks where he came from. Daesung then replies that he came from hell, and she, confused, asks, what? Then he introduces himself, says his name is Han Daesung, and that he came from hell. The assassin screams that that's nonsense, calling him a monster as she fires her weapon. She lands several hits on him, screaming repeatedly for him to die. From the top of the building, she can be heard yelling, "Drop dead." She keeps shooting until she runs out of ammo. Where our hero stood is now covered in smoke from the shots. Very tense, she wonders if he died. But out of nowhere, he appears behind her, asking, "Die from that?" While she thinks she was sure he had been defeated, suddenly a bunch of shadows appears at the scene. Terrified, the assassin asks what the hell that is. Then, in a swift movement, our hero grabs her and slams her hard against the wall. He holds her there while she feels his strength. When several shadowy hands appear behind her, that shadow creature full of hands and eyes appears, terrifying her, and saying various things like, "Let's play, hate, disgust, what is this?" and more disjointed phrases. Desperate, she asks what the hell that thing is. That thing grabs the woman and she starts going into shock. He asks if she's going to faint without saying anything. He notices a few things on the ground, and bending down to look, says he doesn't want to kill her. He looks inside the guitar case and finds more things. He finds the document along with photos of him, his sister, and his mother. Then he drops those bullets on the ground and tosses one at the girl's head. She slowly begins to regain consciousness and screams in despair as she realizes that reality once again. Daesung tells her to answer the question, and that he will kill her if she makes noise or says nonsense. The boy looks at those photos of his family. Then he finally asks who ordered her to do this. The assassin thinks she can't say anything about the Habma clan, and that it's that gangster. She thinks he was declared missing and wouldn't know about it, so she says Kim Sung-yeon, and Daesung asks who that is. She says they're the muscle of the private loan organization he destroyed recently, and that he stole the vault from that bastard. The boy asks if it was the 500 million, and she thinks she did it, that as soon as she gets out of there. Then she continues, saying to let her go and she'll tell him where he is. At that moment, Daesung throws that bullet at her, with such force that it pierces her shoulder, opening a huge hole in it. She screams in pain, cursing and asking why. With difficulty, she says that she told him that she already told him. Daesung says it's not normal for an assassin to give up sensitive information that easily, and if she made a mistake, he'll kill her. Frightened, she thinks that was way too fast, and what should she do now? Finally, our hero says, "Okay, now for the last time, who ordered you to do this?" The assassin thinks that the job failed anyway, and even if she survives there, she remembers that guy blowing up his subordinate's head, and concludes she'll be killed by the psychopath from the Habma clan. So it doesn't matter where she goes, she'll die. If she's going to die anyway. She asks if he thinks she'll say anything that he can ask 1,000 times and the answer will be the same. Curious, our hero wonders if she's using a self-destruction. The assassin screams, telling that bizarre monster to go to hell. But suddenly something happens and a hole is blown in her at the same time destroying her hand. She is frightened and surprised by it, and starts coughing, badly wounded. Daesung tells her to stay away from him, and that he's already sick of hell. The woman falls to the ground, badly hurt from the attack, while Daesung approaches, saying that in the end he couldn't find out who was behind it all. And now it's time to dispose of the body. He says he didn't want to use this item because it makes him feel bad. Reading from his journal, the keyword is the memory of death. He starts flipping through several pages until he finishes that search. He comments that this should take care of everything. Then he calls upon the Pantheon, and that portal appears in front of him. And that even though he heard most of this area is closed due to the portal fracture, it might be better if he handles this with something. From the outside, just an ordinary building under construction. While inside, our hero left what was left of that assassin covered with something. And under that tarp, we can still see her hand. Crossing the portal, Daesung returns to the Pantheon. At the terminal, it says the demons of Pandemonium celebrate the second return of the absolute ruler. Then asks him what date and location he'd like to recreate. Daesung answers that it's page 134, where the Prison of Souls was recorded. The Prison of Souls is the main weapon of the Ghost King, one of the 15 rulers of the states allied with the demon god. At the time, our hero defeated that creature. And this is an artifact that summons from death, being imbued with his own blood. When he first arrived at the Prison of Souls, he thought he could finally fight comfortably, but his summon was weak, and he couldn't use it properly. On the terminal, it shows page 134, year 37 and 98 days, asking if he'd like to recreate this in the Pantheon. It says that unlike in Hell on Earth, he can use this to dispose of bodies, and then he orders to recreate it. Daesung confirms this on the terminal. Then it shows that the recording location is the River of Death, and it is being recreated. Everything around him starts to change. And in just a moment, he is in a desolate place. That place is the River of Death. A bunch of souls circulate through the area. He thinks that on the other side of the river is the territory of the Ghost King, and that in the past there was a boat there that could be used to cross, but now there is no boat, not even wooden planks, and besides, you can't just swim across it. Just dipping into the water, your body would be disintegrated by death. On the terminal, it shows that the mission's goal is to defeat the celestial things occupying the river, and the reward will be 50% implementation of the Prison of Souls. Suddenly, someone says they detected an unidentified intruder, and that they're awaiting removal approval. Daesung watches, asking what those things are. Looking closely, they appear to be several white insects. On the terminal, it shows they are a mechanical life form, autonomous weapons created by celestial beings. Then the creature says the removal of the intruders has been approved. The celestial monsters charge our hero, firing some kind of projectiles at him. Daesung easily dodges the attack, which hits the tree behind him. That substance begins to corrode the area it struck, and our hero wonders if by taking care of them he might receive a boat as a reward. Daesung summons his savage dagger and waits as the enormous insect charges toward him. Then he launches forward with force, rushing toward the massive creature, preparing to strike. With his attack, he pierces the monster's carapace, slashing the creature from top to bottom. He cuts one of them clean in half. The monster collapses to the ground while he regains his stance. Suddenly, several purple projectiles fly toward him from all sides, and it seems he won't have any easy way out. Daesung thinks this is similar to poison bullets, and that there's no benefit in dodging them. So as all of that approaches him, he uses his energy. That barrage of spheres hits a kind of shield surrounding him, and Daesung remains motionless and unharmed. He says dealing with each one of them individually is troublesome. He says it seems like that creature doesn't want to come down, so he tells it to come down, and unleashes a powerful attack, breaking everything around him. That creature tries to cling to something, but everything around shakes a little, and in the next moment it begins to fall to the ground. Thinking it's over, Daesung quickly charges at it, and rushes through them, retaliating against each of the celestial creatures. Then he destroys their cores, grabbing one of those energy spheres with his bare hands, and crushing it like it's nothing. On the terminal, it shows he completed the mission and the necessary conditions, so the implementation of the Prison of Souls is now at 50%. Then it shows that the rewards have been granted to the absolute ruler. He simply watches as the terminal closes. A flame of energy appears before him, then an object appears within it. And on the terminal it says he received the Blessing of the Worm, which is an armor that makes him immune to death energy and reduces physical damage. Reading it, he says he'll be immune to the energy of death. Then a confirmation appears asking if he wants to wear the blessing, and that if he wants to wear it again later, he'll have to use his willpower. Daesung wonders if this is telling him to swim. That river of death remains turbulent, and rising from the depths, our hero emerges from it. Coming out of the river, someone in armor appears, and our hero appears wearing armor that covers his entire body. On the terminal, it says the demon beast admires his swimming skills, and the demons of Pandemonium apologize for not being useful to the ruler. Soaked in that wine-colored water, he tells them to shut up if they know. A strong golden light appears before him, and that light floods the entire place. Sometime later, in the territory of the Ghost King, our hero finds a desolate place. Looking around, he says there's no one there, at the old castle where the Ghost King lived has disappeared. On the terminal, it says the beasts of Pandemonium apologize for the disappearance of the Ghost King's sacred castle, and Daesung tells them not to state what he already knows. He says that although the main mission was a side quest, he asks if there's a way to reach the castle through another side mission. Then he continues on his path, alert to everything around him. Suddenly, a loud noise and pieces of things flying through the air. Something huge begins to emerge from the ground. It keeps rising from the earth without stopping. Daesung watches carefully, focused on that unusual situation, until in front of him, amid all the dust, a colossal monument appears. On the terminal, it says it's the celestial obelisk, made by celestial beings with divine stones, serving as a place to capture and imprison wandering ghosts of the 9 heavens. At the top, a celestial glow appears, and a fiery energy shoots out from the gate. Daesung asks if going through there will start his next quest. On the terminal, it says it's the second mission, and he must destroy the celestial creatures created by the obelisk to receive 100% of the Prison of Souls, a rune, and contribution points. Suddenly, a bizarre creature appears. The armored enemy stares at our hero, who looks back, wondering if that could be. The creature looks at Daesung with an expression of fury, and Daesung wonders if that would be the general commander. Since it belongs to the demon category, he doesn't believe they are hostile to him. Meanwhile, a bunch of those creatures charge in his direction. Our hero shouts, telling the bastards to give up, and manifests all this power right there. The demons stop watching him, and the terminal says the demon beasts beg forgiveness for betraying their comrades. The creatures roar, challenging their opponent. Then they continue advancing against the King of Hell. Our hero begins attacking the monsters, landing a direct hit on 2 of them. Daesung thinks it seems like they don't have an internal core installed, and wonders if it might be because of the pillar. From the base of the obelisk, that sea of creatures keeps advancing. Then our hero uses the blood naturalization skill while thinking about that pillar. On the terminal, it says that this skill transforms him into half human, half demon. All attributes increase by 30%, but energy is consumed over time, and he decides he's going to overcome this once and for all. Daesung confidently charges toward the enemies. Using all this power, he moves from group to group, defeating them in sequence. The creatures are struck and defeated, while our hero doesn't stop his attack. He delivers a powerful blow, hitting several of them at once. On the terminal, it shows 50 out of 10,000. That it increases to 130 out of 10,000. In the middle of the battlefield, he watches as the creatures appear. He thinks that destroying everything from the inside out seems more effective after all. The creatures come out from within the obelisk, and our hero takes the opportunity to restart his attacks, heading toward the entrance. Finally, he manages to enter that structure. He starts attacking it from the inside out, and continues doing that throughout the entire obelisk, until it starts breaking into several pieces, causing those creatures to begin disintegrating into dust. They vanish, leaving only their armors. Our hero keeps walking over the ashes, and in the end, only Dasung remains on the battlefield. On the terminal, it says he has completed and fulfilled the requirements, so the implementation of the Prison of Souls is now at 100%, along with the other rewards. 2 glowing spheres appear in front of him. Daesung asks if one is a reward item, and the other would be implementation item, that it's best to check the other items first. Then he gives a command, collect. The spheres seem to respond to this, and one of them goes toward the boy's chest. On the terminal, it shows that the reward is the soul prison artifact, and it transforms the souls of the dead into ghosts. He received a skill to imprison, able to capture the soul of a dead target in the artifact and resurrect, bringing the soul back as a commanded soldier. Lastly, memory sharing. He can view some memories of the designated commander, and it shows he has 0 souls out of a possible 20. Daesung says the initial purpose is to collect bodies and gather information, but there are very few of them, and that must be why he received another reward item. Giving the command again, he says, collect. The red sphere begins to react. And on the terminal, a question appears asking if he'd like to inscribe the expansion rune onto his soul prison. Then Daesung gives the collect command and the 2 spheres interact, showing that the number of possible souls has increased to 100. The boy continues holding that powerful artifact and squeezes it in his hand, making it disappear. Finally, a message appears saying that the soul prison has been collected. He says the purpose of coming there was achieved and wonders where he should go now. Looking at something in front of him, he asks what that is. On the terminal, it says that the demons feel chills from the radiant, wicked aura of light and beg the ruler to be cautious. Asking if he's obligated to listen to all of them, he decides to give the command and collect the sphere. That yellow light begins to shine brightly as he observes his hand with a golden flame. On his fist, a flaming engraved circle appears. Finally, something different seems to appear in front of him. The terminal glows with a yellow light. While he wonders what this is now, that thing begins to break apart. Daesung says he thought it would be something useful, but it was just a waste of time of meaningless riddles. Finally, he says he wants to go back, and a portal opens right in front of him, back at that building under construction. He looks with disdain and surprise at something ahead. The body is no longer there where he had left it. Daesung wonders where that body went. Sometime later at his house, Jisoo secretly watches something. As our hero enters through the gate at home, she says the rice soup is cold. Our hero apologizes for that. She tells him to come in so they can eat soon. Upon arriving inside, the food is served. On the news, it says that compared to the scale of this portal fracture case, that his mother turns off the TV and says, "Rice, we can start eating." Daesung says the world is changing a lot, that he saw monsters appearing in the news. Ajumma watches her son eating and says she's afraid he might be shocked, so she can't tell him. She apologizes that she's a mother but can't help with anything, but she kept going. Then Daesung says it's okay. He says she survived unharmed in a world like this, so he's grateful for that. She is surprised to hear what he said, and his sister just eats, pretending not to care. Our boy wonders what kind of atmosphere this is. Then he says that anyway, there's nothing his mother or Jisoo want to have. The girl asks why if he's trying to buy cool things for them. Inside, his mother asks if he wants more soup, and he confirms. His sister says that's a double portion. Elsewhere in the Soul Clan, someone asks what's going on, and another person says they were heading to the underground, and if it's because of the licensing exam. On the other end of the phone, someone says it's similar to training in the mountain cave, and Chano says not at all, and asks if he really wants to go back there. Daesung says he found a bug, but it disappeared in the blink of an eye. And on the other end, his friend asks what he means by bug. And our hero thinks that the body vanished completely without leaving any trace. But he says that anyway, while he's away, he wants his friend to take care of his family. And Chano says yes. Daesung thinks he needs to make sure he's not caught himself. On the other side, Chano hangs up and wonders what his friend Daesung is trying to do. In the Habma clan, someone says the body was discarded, but the guy must not be easy, since he made a B-rank assassin look like a low rank, and asks how they should deal with him. The general says to leave it as is, and says the target will appear at the upcoming test, and that then they'll have the chance to eliminate him. Then he asks a man named Jinxiel inside a tank if that's right, and the man confirms it is. He asks the man to please begin that immediately, because he knows him, and he's been waiting for this day. A doctor says that Jinxiel's heart, a rank A, is stable, and asks if they should start the serum injection. The general tells the man that the pain will be considerable, that he needs to be prepared. Determined, Jinxiel says he made a decision the moment he joined them. Without hesitation, the leader orders them to begin, and the doctor complies. Then says he will start injecting the serum while pressing a button. The machines begin to operate, and that substance starts entering Jinxiel's veins, and the computer says the injection is at 20% and his heart is stable. Inside the tank, the man struggles to endure the pain as the injection level reaches 40%. Suffering, Jinxiel fights to endure and says, "Great." The injection reaches 50%, and the computer shows the man's data. Alarmed, the doctor tells his boss they've exceeded the normal range. But without hesitation, he orders them to continue. The doctor warns that he could die if they keep going. Then the general says if he were going to die from that amount, they wouldn't have brought him here. Tense with the situation, the doctor says it's at 80%. As it climbs to 90%, the man inside the tank screams in pain and despair. Finally, the injection reaches 100%, while the man continues screaming, until the computer shows that his heart has stopped. He remains still inside that tank. Everyone in the room falls silent, just watching the situation. The doctor tensely says it seems his heart stopped, that he's dead. But the general puts a finger to his lips and signals for silence. Suddenly, something starts to happen inside the tank. And to the doctor's surprise, he sees something on the monitors too. Out of nowhere, the man's heart starts beating again. That doctor seems to not understand it. Jingchul's eyes open inside the tank, while the doctor says it can't be. With a punch, he breaks through the thick glass wall and comes out of that device on his own. Now outside, he lets out a scream, while his boss looks quite pleased with it. Jingchul stands there in the middle of the room, full of energy pouring out of him, while the general says he almost disappointed him, but tells him he did a good job, and that he's looking ahead about 10 days into the future. Meanwhile, our hero receives a message from his friend, asking if he's only been using the association's test weapons and armor. Daesung thinks that if the equipment's performance is bad, he can endure it physically. But before anything else, there's something he needs to check. So he grabs a twig and begins to swing it repeatedly. Hitting it against his arm, he thinks he knew it. Unlike weapons, protective equipment doesn't appear in reality. Protective gear can wear out constantly, so he decides to experiment with weapons. Daesung opens his inventory and looks for something inside. He thinks that weapons can also be overwritten, and the twig is recognized as a weapon. The terminal asks if he wants to load the judgment dagger with the weapon recognized by the absolute ruler, and our hero confirms it. Something starts happening to that dagger, and also to the twig he picked up. The terminal shows that the loading is complete. Then he realizes weapons are also possible, and so he made his dagger take on the appearance of that twig. Daesung wonders if he should go pick it up, and then he calls the Pantheon. Sometime later in the territory of the Flame King, our hero walks through that steaming place. He says he never thought he'd return to that place. Across the fire plains, he sees several creatures approaching and observes it closely. Those wolf-like monsters continue approaching. On the terminal, it shows that the mission has high difficulty, and you must destroy Orkyul's minions, receiving the Hellfire Sword as a reward. It also shows that their race is Beast, and they are the tame soldiers of the 5th Celestial Apostle, Orkyul. Daesung says he never thought he'd use this so soon. Running the weapon through his hand, he invokes the power of the Soul Prison. At that moment, a huge armored creature appears in front of him. With a mocking look, he asks the monster what's up, if it wants some food. The creature prepares to attack, and our hero charges at it, unleashing a flurry of attacks before the monster can even counter. As that thing falls, he throws his dagger forward. One of the creatures stares at him, full of energy in its furious eyes. Something passes through the monsters, hitting them in the process. One of them seems to feel the force of the attack. That dagger continues its work, and keeps striking as many creatures as possible. On the terminal, it shows that 33 soldiers were absorbed, until the weapon returns to its owner, and Daesung observes the battlefield. Then he gives the command to summon the fallen soldiers, but his opponents charge ahead without concern. When suddenly a shadowy hand appears, grabbing one of their faces. One of those soldiers emerges under our hero's command, while others begin to appear, and clenching his hand, he crushes the creature's head. The other monsters seem to get even more enraged. Meanwhile, several of Daesung's soldiers appear. Then he gives the command for them to go. His soldiers charge at the enemies, as the monsters do the same. A large-scale battle begins at the location, while Daesung lights a lighter and then a cigarette, and starts smoking while watching the fight. Surprised by something, he spits and wonders how Chano knows about smoking that stuff. Meanwhile, up ahead things are going wild. The fight continues, and one of our hero's soldiers seems to have taken the worst of it. He smiles and says they're fresh bugs, but still, you can't let your guard down. The enemy charges at him in fury, but something seems to come after it. Almost on top of Daesung, it is grabbed by something shadowy. Then he explains that as long as the stigma isn't removed from the body, they can regenerate infinitely. With strength, his soldier pulls the creature back and approaches the monster to attack it. Daesung says the undead don't feel fear and don't hesitate at death. On the terminal, it shows he obtained 12 soul stones out of a total of 1,000. Daesung says it's not working. If he leaves everything to them, he might have to fight all night. And the implementation of this mission is at 50%. Maybe it needs one or more unfinished missions. He strikes the ground forcefully, gaining momentum. Then he soars into the sky with overwhelming power, thinking that it's not even hard to eliminate thousands of those guys in 2 hours. He reaches a height where he can see that army below as if they were ants. Looking down like a superior being, he thinks the main part is, that would be pretty cool. Then he flies down toward them like a meteor, getting closer and closer to the creatures. He continues approaching at high speed, until he's almost face to face with one of them, arriving in the middle of that army like a shining comet. Finally, he hits the ground with all that accumulated power. The creatures look at it furiously as a white light fills the entire area. A massive explosion erupts at the point of impact. Meanwhile, back in the human world at the Soul Clan headquarters, a creature is struck in the stomach by a weapon. It howls in pain from the blow, while someone spins on their heels, making a motion that cuts the monster from bottom to top. On a terminal, it shows that all designated targets have been eliminated. That creature begins to vanish, while the woman poses with her sword. This is Shin Cho-young from the Seoul clan. The wound on her cheek also seems to begin disappearing. On the terminal, it says she is exiting the hunting simulation and thanks her for her efforts. A man in a suit asks the captain how she can enjoy this. He is the head of the Seoul clan's department, while the clan leader, Hwang Jun, says that it's not bad. He explains that she tends to get nervous during battles and ends up acting without thinking, so it's good to train that part since there are still 10 days to go. He says they should increase the intensity of training by 2 levels, and if they want to surpass the Mad Dogs, they first need to surpass themselves. Then the department guy asks if he's referring to Jung Jin, the leader of the Hogma clan, as a mad dog. The leader says yes, that no one would probably beat Shin Cho's score in this test if not for him, and Shin is rank B, while Jung Jin is rank A. Jung, irritated, says no, that it's more about what the Hogma clan is doing. The man says, come on, you could do that again, and asks if he wasn't banned from entering the rookie test for a year because of that incident. Then the chief says that's why they've gotten dirtier, and that they're unprepared to fill the gap this year. His subordinate says that in the end, Shin Cho and Jung Jin are doing the first part of the test, and that this will be a stage for those two. Interested, the chief agrees. Unless there's another monster out there. On the terminal, it says that the demons of Pandemonium respect the extraordinary abilities of the absolute ruler, that they are grateful and delighted, giving a thumbs up. Finally, that terminal shows that only 1 soul stone is left. Daesung wonders if there's an option to mute this while continuing to smoke his cigarette. That still living creature groans beneath him. It watches him with fear and anger, while our hero strikes it, telling it to shut up while he smokes his cigarette. On top of a pile of monsters, he tells it to stay quiet. On the terminal, it shows that he completed the cleanup, and the mission is complete, receiving conquest points and 50% implementation of the Hellfire Sword. From those dead creatures, spheres of energy start emerging. From nearly all the creatures, the same thing happens, all moving toward our boy, condensing into a single energy orb. On the terminal, it says to offer the soul orb at the altar, and Daesung wonders about the altar, thinking he's never seen anything that looked like one. He reaches out toward the energy orb. He thinks, don't tell me I'll have to go through the trouble of searching for this thing. Suddenly, a structure appears on the ground. It looks like the altar is forming. From afar, Daesung sees that huge thing appearing out of nowhere. He's surprised, saying that looks kinder than he imagined. On the terminal, it shows that the creatures of Pandemonium shake their heads at the words of the absolute ruler. Then our hero throws the rest of his cigarette onto the pile of monsters. On the terminal, it says the second mission begins. He must offer the soul stone at the altar and show his qualifications to the snake guardian. Arriving there, he places the stone in the altar's container. Then that stone begins to react. The spheres atop the columns emit the same type of energy, when suddenly something gigantic appears in front of him. Daesung simply watches it silently. When a giant serpent appears, staring at him, it fixes its gaze on our hero, and Daesung returns that gaze. On the terminal, it says the guardian is the snake favored by Orkiel, the 5th celestial apostle, and he must answer her question to qualify and claim the celestial item. Surprised by the situation, Daesung says, what? He says everything was going fine, and now there are these questions and answers. Says they're trying all sorts of weird things. Daesung tells the snake to ask its question, and that he'll give his special answer. Finally, the beast begins to speak, but in a language the boy doesn't understand. Incredulous and irritated, he asks if she's joking with him. Suddenly something flies and hits one of the snake's eyes. The serpent screams from the attack. Daesung asks how she dares try to sell him drugs. On the terminal, it shows that blood naturalization has been activated. It will consume his life over time and increase his attributes by 300%. With a hand movement, our hero acts again, and his weapon strikes the creature's other eye. The dagger finally returns to our hero's hand. Determined, he charges at the creature. He jumps up to her head's height. As he attacks the beast, he says they treated him so kindly, so maybe he's coming off as soft. He adds that they should use whatever they've got, calling them evil bastards. Daesung keeps attacking non-stop. With fury in his eyes, he yells, "Snake!" And atop her head, he strikes her repeatedly. The beast writhes as she's attacked, when suddenly she begins to swell. And in the next moment, her head simply bursts. Our hero lands on the ground after that, with the snake's remains flying in all directions. He says this smells like fish. Then something catches his attention, and he says it was a pretty obvious pattern for dealing with guys like them, and that he's not surprised. Where the creature's head was, something begins to happen, and a new head starts to form in place of the previous one. He thinks if that flame is what he thinks it is. In a moment, that enormous serpent is whole again before him, and now angrier than ever. Our hero says that won't work with such an obvious pattern. Ready for battle, he tells the monster to come. Daesung watches that furious creature. The snake charges at him, determined to attack. Prepared for it, he waits for the strike. He braces his arm between the monster's huge teeth and steps on the creature's tongue, placing himself inside the beast's mouth. Inside, he sees something emitting a strong light and says, also, this is the flame of regeneration. Then suddenly the giant snake closes its mouth over our boy. The serpent rises, having swallowed our hero. On the terminal, it shows the demons of Pandemonium fall into despair and turn their faces, covering their eyes. But in the next moment, something seems wrong with that monster. Then it opens its mouth, spitting out something glowing. From inside, our hero leaps out, landing safely on the ground. He braces something heavy, breaking the ground, and rises, wielding that enormous sword. On the terminal, it shows he obtained the Hellfire Sword, and since the implementation is at 50%, it won't function normally. Some skills will be sealed. He says 50% is enough to deal with this creature. Now it won't be able to use the Flame of Regeneration. The furious serpent charges again at our hero, and Daesung prepares with his new sword. Determined, he says this is too much, and raises his weapon full of power, striking the monster mercilessly with a precise attack. The sword opens a hole in the creature. His attack is extremely powerful, and it was enough to split that thing into two halves. Our hero watches the result of his strike, and on the terminal, it shows he completed the mission, gained the serpent's blood, 20,000 conquest points, and 100% implementation of the Hellfire Sword. Suddenly, the chains wrapped around the weapon break, and Daesung looks at the now complete weapon with satisfaction. On the terminal, it says this is the Hellfire Sword, and the trials were to see if he truly desired it, to withstand the ordeal of burning flame for the designated time. He thinks that's it, that this is a necessary step to fully understand the sword, the trial of the scorching hell. On the terminal, it shows that the remaining time is 239 hours. The trial won't take his life, but the pain will persist. Daesung knows he must endure the burning pain for another 240 hours. That's 10 days. As everything is engulfed in fire, he thinks, but he knows he doesn't need to go through this trial. Then he asks, have you become a dog that no longer recognizes its master? Flame King. On the terminal, it shows the remaining time is 239 hours and 54 minutes, and that when he says something, it should remove that countdown from in front of him before he cuts it to pieces and burns it to ashes. So the terminal shows that the remaining time is now 0. That fire starts to fade and someone calls out to their lord. They ask for forgiveness for not realizing who he was until now after hearing his voice. Daesung says it's okay, it's been a long time anyway. King of Flames. A strong light appears through the smoke. He says he made sure not to go to Pandemonium. Pandemonium is the final destination of souls who died in hell. It is a world of endless nothingness, like the depths of a deep, dark sea. The terminal says that demons shed tears, that they beat against the walls of darkness and beg the ruler to release them from there. The King of Flames says that since his lord left, he has been waiting for him to strip him from the face of the storms of time. Daesung asks if he resents him, and the king replies that no, it's not like that. If it was his choice, he will gladly accept it. He says that the reason he got upset is because of what happened after his lord left him. Our hero seems confused and asks, what? Then he says that one day a foreign and unknown enemy appeared from the edge of the dimension. They took advantage of the moment when the demonic beasts had lost their power due to the vacuum left by the monarch and swept through hell. As if that weren't enough, they sealed the time and space of hell. They banished the demons to Pandemonium. He explains that he just watched as he saw the demons being crushed, and that he had no choice but to be swallowed by a huge white snake. He was stripped of his pride and has spent his time on meaningless things. But fortunately, his lord freed him from that. He adds that with all due respect, he doesn't know why he returned there. Daesung replies that he needs his help, and that he'll know the details when the time comes. The King of Flames says he is grateful that his lord is looking for him, and our hero then asks if he knows what that thing is. Then he answers that he doesn't know what it is but feels an unfamiliar energy. Daesung asks, unfamiliar energy. The King of Flames explains that it's the same energy he felt coming from the outsiders. And he tells his lord that he doesn't know what that thing is, so he should be careful. But it seems our hero isn't listening to him. He says the system has never screwed him over after working hard, and it's never too late to be cautious once the collecting is done. Then he grabs that thing. A golden terminal appears saying, prior entry here, you have obtained 2 out of 3. He says it seems like he has obtained permission to enter somewhere. The terminal asks if he would like to leave the Pantheon, but he replies no. Daesung thinks that so far he has only left the Pantheon and returned to reality. Then the terminal asks if he would like to leave this area and return to the Pantheon, and he thinks he still has items to obtain besides that sword. He gives the command to return to the Pantheon. Back in the human world, someone says the video of the massacre is getting wild, and another person says it was inevitable, it wasn't a joke. They ask if the manager saw it too, and he replies of course he did. Chanho thinks he really can't say that he's his friend. That would be embarrassing. A man approaches and asks if he can see team leader Sung Chan for a second. Chanho asks what brings the director there. Then he says they should take a break and have a smoke. Sometime later on the terrace of that building, the director says he didn't mention he was on site at the time and asks if he found anything. Chanho, tense, thinks about what he expects him to say, that the moment to say Daesung is his friend, he would beg to make him join by any means necessary. Then he finally says that if he had anything he would have reported it, and the director asks if that's it then. What a shame, he says, if he had, he could have made him join the clan. Chanho thinks he'll just keep pretending and says he's right, it's only been 7 days since the license test. and asks how Shincho did. The director then becomes thoughtful, and the young man asks if something is wrong. Finally, he says no, he's just worried that she's pushing herself too hard. Meanwhile, in a forest with 7 days left until the day of the test, Shin pushes herself in training. A voice says there are 10 minutes left until the end of the simulation program, and that there are still 10 targets remaining as a stone slab suddenly appears on the spot. Cho quickly rushes toward it and strikes it with her sword, slicing through it, leaving behind only the 2 cut halves. In the next moment, several more appear. One appears behind the girl, and it opens to reveal a monster inside. The creature emerges from the stone box and charges forward with surprising speed. To the girl's surprise, she prepares to face the monster coming toward her. But suddenly, without her noticing, another creature bites her on the shoulder. Meanwhile, the monster keeps approaching from the front. The creature quickly closes in on her face, until a voice says that's enough, catching her by surprise. A voice says that the training program has ended. She looks back, irritated, looking for whoever did that. And the chief is behind the glass, watching her. Speaking seriously, he tells her to come up because they need to talk. Frustrated, she says she could have easily kept going from inside the medical lab. The man says she's overreacting and asks if she doesn't think so. Shin replies, "Achieve what you want, even if you overdo it," and asks if that's not what he always tells her. She defends herself, saying she was talking about physical overtraining, that she doesn't overtrain her mental strength either. She adds that she knows her own body. The director asks if she knows it better than the artificial intelligence system, and pointing at a screen, he asks if she's seeing that. The left side is the normal range of mental data, while the next is the mental data measured by the eye. Shin keeps watching without saying anything. Then he asks what is this psychological compulsion identified by the AI that is holding her back. Without looking at the director, the girl says she needs to be in the top 5. He asks top 5 and whether she's trying to increase her rank. Then the girl confirms yes. She explains that once she becomes rank A, she'll be allowed to access many more portals, payment and reputation will grow. But Shin interrupts and says she's not in this for the money or the fame while crushing her bottle. She bites her lip and says "I" and finishes by saying she wants to kill every monster left in this world. With 5 days left before the license test, someone opens a door. It's the general of the Hanma clan. He walks silently through the area until he reaches a large metal door. He waits there for a moment, then places his finger to get permission to open the door. That door opens quickly in front of him. Holding his nose, he says he didn't think he'd endure so well in a place like that. He explains that they can change the quarantine facility, especially the ventilation system. The lights in the place react to some kind of energy, and the man says they can include the lighting. He asks the guy if that's right. Inside, someone is voraciously feeding on a carcass. Then the general calls his name Jinkyo. He says he sees that he's doing well, and it looks like he's enjoying the food too. Tells him to eat and rest so that the medications work properly, because he will be the main character in the upcoming license test. With 3 days left until the exam, the terminal shows that he made progress in completion, finishing the mission, and the achievement is complete. In a frozen place, our hero observes it while holding his sword. The King of Flames asks if now his lord is returning, and finally Daesung says yes, with only 1 day left until the license exam. On D-Day, the number of awakened individuals had increased by 25% since the previous year, and as such, competition for the Hunter exam in the first part of the year also increased. The association said it would change the testing methods starting this year, preparing for the number of participants. Out of nowhere, a luxury car comes speeding and brakes loudly. That beautiful car causes a big stir, and reporters try to guess who it is as they run toward it, shouting, "Hanma clan, Lee Seokwoo." 2 men looking like a rich executive and a movie star step out of the vehicle. A reporter introduces herself and asks Lee if the young man with him is the rookie from the Hanma clan and how he thinks the clan will perform in today's test. Before he could respond, another reporter says the clan was barred from participating due to cheating and asks the young man what he thinks about the situation. Thinking to himself, Lee feels those vultures are already getting annoying right from the start. He ends up replying that he regrets the incident that occurred 2 years ago. The reporter questions whether the use of the words regret and incident might be inappropriate as a strategy to avoid responsibility. At that moment, someone taps the reporter on the shoulder. Seokwoo calmly promises that this year the test will be fair and clean. The 2 young men continue walking away from the car and the unbearable group of professionals, with the clan's young man turning his head to look back. They arrive at the complex where the test will be held. The pair proceeds until they reach the exam site. Annoying, the Hanma clan guy says he shouldn't have let go of the people's comments outside. Lee warns him, calling him by name. The other replies that he was just joking and won't do anything. The suited man emphasizes that it's good to have fun, but be careful not to get too excited, especially if something is revealed, which would leave them with a lot of trouble to handle. A man approaches from behind them, saying he's curious about what would land them in hot water, and his sudden arrival startles them. Seokwoo glances slightly back to see who appeared so stealthily. The imposing figure is Captain Hwang Junyang, and it had been a long time since the 3 of them last met. Lee asks why the man is dressed like that and jokes that he looks like a disguised gorilla, and he replies it's because of the journalists. The captain adds that another reason is that he doesn't have to pretend in front of the cameras, unlike someone else he knows, and the shoe clearly fits the young man. Suddenly, the man notices something different. He starts observing Lee's companion and realizes that his aura is stable, intense, but not overflowing and perfectly refined. Tipping his hat, Wang believes the young man played his hand very wisely. That doesn't go unnoticed, and Sukwu says that although the exam hasn't even started yet, the captain's attention is clearly on the rookie. Junyoung apologizes for his attitude but explains his concern that he might have to report the young rookie again like 2 years ago and hopes it won't happen again. Coldly, the suited man replies affirmatively. And finally, the two young men turn their backs and continue on their way while the third one watches them. Clearly irritated, Jin notices that the old man is still staring straight at him and asks his companion if that guy has a problem. With all the calm in the world, Lee says he understands how the other feels but emphasizes that the old man is not their target. To know the right target, we have to find him, says the young man. Next, a woman passes by them while using her cell phone, going in the opposite direction. Keel observes her closely and even his expression changes. Sukwu explains that she is Shin Choyang, a strong member of the Soul Clan, and his companion completely ignores that and thinks it would be easy to defeat her. The suited man emphasizes that it doesn't matter if she is strong or weak. What matters here is that the clan and the old man put effort together. However, instead of being discouraged, the rookie shows strong excitement, and then says that the woman would be fun to break. From afar, Huang senses a disturbance in the force and wonders what kind of trick the suited man is planning this time, but no matter what it is, the young woman won't fall for it. Suddenly, something quickly catches the captain's attention. Calmly, our hero also arrives at the complex and is walking down the same hallway, exuding intense power. Junyoung is deeply unsettled by the young man's arrival. The man keeps looking back even as the other walks past him, almost as if he's paralyzed. Shin, who is now standing in front of the old man, starts calling him while Daesung walks away. The woman calls in once more, but the hypnotic effect of the boy still holds the man. Clearly shaken, Huang finally starts speaking, but without taking his eyes off the boy, and asks the girl to be careful. She finds this sudden request strange. She assumes the boss is talking about the Hama team boys and tries to reassure him that she won't let her guard down. The man replies that it's not about those two that he's talking. While watching our boys relax walk, Junyoung explains that he's talking about him and the young man isn't even aware of all this conversation. Someone apologizes for not being there with him due to having a lot of work to do, and upon hearing that they'll get the clothes back, asks that they be used since they'll just turn into rags anyway. A sound alert announces that the hunter license test will begin shortly and participants must use the provided equipment and head to the exam room. Han stops for a moment in front of a vending machine-type device. On the machine's instructions, it asks to place your finger to be scanned so that a drawer below will open and you can retrieve the contents inside. The young man follows the procedure required by the machine and a box appears with his name written on it. He carefully observes the items inside and realizes that there are some clothes that offer protection. Meanwhile, in the exam room, the participants are gathered in front of the room waiting for the test to begin, and someone says they're finally going to take the exam. An older man, feeling fulfilled, wears his special outfit while feeling it was worth all the complaining to get there and rise above those who tried to ridicule him. The man feels rage, especially toward the bastard who dared to touch his head, and thinks he'll do something if he sees him again. As he thinks he won't let it go, someone arrives and puts a hand on his head, startling him. Bursting with anger, he starts turning around, wondering who did that. A young man with the number 14 printed on his outfit looks at the man, exuding a powerful aura, and tells him to get out of his way. Sweating heavily, the bald man considers giving up on reacting. While this nonsense is going on, Daesung with his uniform number 104 arrives at the scene. Our hero observes the man in a defeated posture, leaning with his head against the wall. Excited, the young man activates his own aura and says, "Let the games begin." Meanwhile, in the license exam building, Sho waits along with the others for the start. The young man from the Hagma clan seems a bit impatient, and our hero remains deep in thought about everything. There's a good number of people gathered there, but lights of that huge place gradually turn on until it's brightly lit. Circles of energy appear in front of everyone. They are impressed, wondering what that is, when suddenly, the sound of someone testing a microphone fills the room. A man introduces himself as the supervisor and says it's a pleasure to meet all the ladies and gentlemen, wishes everyone luck, and will get straight to the point. The gate prepared by the organizers this time consists of 3 floors, each gate giving access to a different environment with different objectives. One of the men asks what's this about 3 floors, and another says it's the first time he's seen the number of floors divided by portals. Someone raises a hand saying, "Over here." Then he asks when he will give them their weapons. And the man explains that test candidates will not receive any weapons, and they may not bring anything other than the protective suit they are already wearing. In the crowd, people are heard asking what he's talking about and how he expects anyone to fight without weapons. Suddenly, a voice says it's a pleasure to meet them, and he's an Agbot who will assist them in their progress. He explains that the theme of this test will be adaptation. He asks how well they can demonstrate their natural talents, even in a freezing night cold or a scorching tropical night. He says that the hunter's aura is what matters. In other words, the strength of their bodies, and they must demonstrate their abilities to adapt and fight. And if there are no more questions, he will open the gate. An energy gate appears behind all of them, and quickly evolves into a more solid passageway. The supervisor shouts that everyone must now enter the gate behind them and wishes all participants good luck. On the first floor of the gate in the tropical forest, people are walking through, suffering from the heat. They wonder what this is. That's hard to breathe. An outraged man curses the situation, saying they'll have to dry off if he does this before the exam. From a screen, someone watches several of the candidates. From a large broadcast room, some men observe the test on the big screens. One man says the standard of the candidates taking the test is low, and another asks if the test is too hard, wondering if they'll all fail. One of the operators says he doesn't think so, and as expected, the rookies sent by the Soul Clan have courage. On the screen, the girl begins to say later. She thinks she needs to clear her mind as soon as possible to use the least amount of energy. The clan director thinks that their show is really good. Back in the control room, they comment that it looks like the Hogma clan also prepared well this time. Jim is impressed and thinks that this is really crazy. The clan general hears someone say that the Hogma clan prepared well this time and that they're excited about it. He gets excited, thinking that the old man got worked up just from seeing that. Suddenly, he notices that the Soul Clan director is impressed by something right behind him and thinks he shouldn't be that impressed. Captain Huang is impressed, wondering who that is and why he seems so calm. He calmly observes the screen until he notices something that surprises him and he thinks, that boy. On the screen, our hero appears relaxed. The general is surprised that he hasn't dropped a single bead of sweat and wonders how he can't see his aura and how he's able to hide it. Our hero thinks he wanted to drink now, but he was smart to drink that beforehand on the terminal. It shows he is free of any abnormal status and environmental factors. He thinks that according to the exam rules, if he's caught, he'll be immediately eliminated. But if he's not caught, there's no problem at all. Among the people, some are heard asking when it will start and that they're dying. Suddenly, a bracelet on everyone's wrist begins to react. And a voice says that all candidates have been confirmed, and for now they will reveal the conditions to complete the first floor, which are deemed appropriate. Candidates must hunt 20 swamp orcs. Then suddenly our hero dashes off in one direction. One of the candidates curses and says he won't lose. He runs panting through the underbrush, but suddenly encounters a stone in his path. The boy crashes face first into the ground. Looking at a water source in front of him, he says it's a damn swamp. Not believing and happy at what he sees, he asks if it's water and that he can finally live. He crawls on his knees toward the water source and puts his hand in to scoop some up, but realizes the next moment that it wasn't water, and a sticky worm grabs him, using its mucus that resembles water in the swamp to trap its prey. The bot says that candidate number 94 has been eliminated and that emergency protection will begin. The creature suddenly begins to swell, and his head explodes, with the man appearing inside a force field. That candidate is gently lowered to the ground, and the bot says it will maintain that until the eliminated recovery team arrives. In another corner, someone continues on their path. Our hero continues advancing through the forest. Looking to the side, he thinks he doesn't seem to be there, so he speeds up and moves forward. The rescue team arrives at the scene and begins the recovery of the eliminated candidate. Suddenly, a sound plays on their communicator. He looks at the device, which says that number 104, Han Daesung, is being tracked. The rescue guy is surprised and wonders about number 104, Han Daesung. Finally, he spots a swamp orc, and the monster seems to have seen him too. He says it's a waste. You want to throw a rock at its skull. The orc looks at him with an aggressive expression. With that huge rock above him, he asks if the monster doesn't think so too, calling it a pig. The creature lets out a roar of fury and charges toward our hero. But suddenly that huge rock appears above it, and Daesung punches it to give it direction. The rock shatters into several pieces, and each of the pieces hits the orc, creating a loud crash in the forest and throwing everything into the air. While our hero stands on the battlefield, someone seems to be watching him from hiding. The man thinks that this is number 104, and that when they ordered him to track this candidate, he thought he was insane. Looking at the body on the ground, our hero thinks this is the 6th, and the hidden man thinks he's certainly not inferior to a rookie from a major clan. Daesung says that hunting them one by one isn't being very efficient. He says he didn't want to use his mana so early, but he can't help it. Then he uses his power to summon the Shadow Specters, and gives the command for them to carry out their mission. In another area of that tropical forest, right there, in the middle of the dense and humid jungle, some orcs seem to have noticed something. So they prepare for battle, weapons in hand. They'd wait and are a bit surprised at not seeing anything. One of the monsters tells the other to wait, and says he should be a bit more patient if he wants to eat a tasty prey. Something starts falling from the ceiling onto them, and the amount of that stuff falling increases. Then one of the orcs notices something, and our hero appears behind them. Daesung says he's starving because he had to dig through the ground. He says he can see that, but still can't understand it. One of the orcs says the meal came by itself, and the other confirms that's right. Daesung starts counting the orcs and says that if he looks closely, there must be more than 20 there, and asks what they're trying to say with KWI. The Flame King tells his lord that they see him as a meal and asks his lord to give him the order. Looking at that bunch of orcs, he says those guys are hilarious. Then our hero finally gives the order, telling him to burn them all. Somewhere else, outside that area, someone moves through the forest. Shove uses her aura opening skill and creates a protective field around herself. As she moves forward, she uses Expand Search and expands her aura to locate her targets. The next moment, she realizes she's found one. Then she quickly changes direction, heads toward a tree, and pushes off it with force. Right after, an orc flies through the air, and the girl appears with her aura and sword in hand. She concludes that at this pace, she'll be able to complete the first floor in 1 hour. The orc gets up and tries to run away. Realizing this, she prepares to strike him and charges at him saying, "Fourth." But someone is faster than her and decapitates the creature before she could do anything. She looks back in shock and sees that guy from the Hogma clan with a frightening expression. The creature falls to the ground defeated, while Jun watches her and Sho realizes it's the guy from Hogma. With a look of satisfaction, he says 5. Annoyed, she says, as expected, of the Hogma clan stealing other people's prey. He says they're competing, so what would be his or hers? That she's a girl dumber than an orc's head. Sho says that if all he can do is steal other people's targets, he won't be able to do more than give them a bit of fun, and asks if it's a tradition in his clan to have such a filthy mouth. Jim asks if her clan created a tradition of becoming idiots 2 years ago. The two candidates stare each other down. He wonders if he should kill her, and that she's worse than he imagined, but realizes no, he should wait until the second part on the second floor at least. Jim continues to glare at the girl who mocks him. Then she turns her back and walks away. Giving him the finger, she tells him to go play alone and calls him an idiot. Furious, he thinks he's going to kill her. Then, overflowing with rage and power, he charges at the girl. A huge crash is heard near where they were. There, the guy seems to have stopped, and the girl remains with her back turned. He seems confused, not understanding what happened, and the girl seems equally surprised. The two candidates look around, trying to understand, and right after, a massive flaming explosion occurs nearby. A few minutes earlier, our hero held his mighty stick, and the Flame King asked for his lord to give him the command. Then Daesung finally gave the order, burn them all. On the terminal, it shows that the Hellfire Sword activated Skill 1 of Hellfire, triggering its special skill slot. The flame begins to emerge from the tip of that stick, and the terminal informs that the first special ability of Hellfire has been activated, and a huge blast of fire erupts from the weapon, while the Flame King says, "Spectre." The orcs stare in shock at it, and the next moment, a massive fire explosion is seen above the forest. From the control room, the staff are shocked by it. The bot announces that candidate 104 has completed the first floor requirements and will now provide the coordinates for the second floor, while everyone in the room is stunned. They ask how long it's been since the exam started, and it's already over. Another asks for that candidate's information quickly, saying they want to recruit him as soon as possible. The captain thinks he already expected that he wouldn't be ordinary, and that he never thought could be this bad. Meanwhile, the general of the Hogma clan looks worried. He turned away, annoyed not to see it. On the screen, another huge fire explosion is shown. All the operators are impressed by that power. Shaking the guy, the attendant says that's why she said what she said. She thought he wasn't a normal person. The man says he already got that and asks her to please stop shaking him. Another one stammers, asking if this is really real, then says it's fine. But they wonder why old Ginseng is there. He approaches and picks up an orc axe. He stands there in the middle of those dead monsters holding the weapon. When he realizes that one of them is alive, he runs over to the orc and gets ready to attack. He keeps hitting without stopping, counting 1, 2, 3, saying this is delicious. Excited, he says it's the 11th and says it was great following that trash number 104. The operators can't believe what they're seeing, thinking it's so cowardly, questioning if it's cheating, and the other says he doesn't know. The test theme is adaptation. But he says the old man is a normal person who couldn't even pass the awakening test in the first place, and asks how he managed to enter this test. The girl explains that on that day, Han Da-sung broke several measurement spheres, and the staff member asks what she means by Han Da-sung. She gets furious, while the guy apologizes and asks what it is anyway. She explains that it's just a rumor, that he asked them to invalidate the result once he broke that sphere, and the man asks, and then says he heard that he sent a large number of complaint articles to the association, and it must have been because of that. Giving the girl a flick on the head, he tells her to say things that make sense. Explains that no matter how many times they sent complaints, it's not enough. An older man appears and apologizes for their hard work. The three bow and ask why the branch manager is there. The man says that person was approved by him, and this shocks the other staff members. One of them asks how he could. Then the manager explains that 3 nights ago, he received reports that he was caught trying to sneak through the portal with bombs strapped to him. The woman asks if maybe he was trying to commit suicide because he's not awakened. But the manager says no. Explains that he lost his whole family in a portal fracture a few years ago, so this must be for revenge. Everyone goes silent around him. One of them says that if this whole story had a favorable consciousness, the system might collapse. The other two start whispering while he tensely asks if he said something wrong. And the manager says that's it. In general, This is absolutely impossible. But that person is the one responsible for the incident the other day. He got a 3-month pay cut, but feels okay because it's like he found a gem. The operators question why the monitors are acting strange and order to contact the support team. On the big screen, our hero is shown. Some time later at the test site, 2 men in suits arrive, and a telecom device flies in one direction. The general says the control room must be a mess right now, while the other man picks up the communicator. He asks if candidate 104 wasn't supposed to be removed from the 2nd or 3rd floor, but the general responds that was before Jin's opponent got ahead of him, and questions what he means by removed, saying it sounds scary. But he says he was just curious about his potential, so he created a small challenge. That guy thinks, a small challenge? Elsewhere, another person receives a message. On the communicator, it says to inject the mutation and pools into the monsters on the 2nd floor. The lackey says, "It's a shame, number 104, your talent was excellent. That's why you shouldn't have been so hard on what the Hogma clan director had set up," and then he fires his weapon. And it's a creature dead on, and a very loud roar is heard through the forest. This catches our hero's attention. He thinks the entrance to the 2nd floor portal is nearby. The general of the Hogma clan thinks it's better if he dies in this challenge. That creature starts to change and goes into a frenzy. Rock fragments fly in all directions, and the monster now appears covered in rocks, becoming a floating swamp golem with the ability to create mist. The creature roars, using its power, and begins to manifest a thick fog, while the soldier thinks he needs to report this immediately and that he'll need a good amount of extra pay. He grabs his hidden communicator from behind the tree, when suddenly that device explodes in his hand, releasing smoke. He realizes it's a paralyzing agent. The weapon falls to the forest floor. He crouches down, coughing in the smoke. And suddenly that huge creature is right behind him. Our hero keeps walking through the forest. He thinks he's walking in circles, always passing through the same place. He checks his equipment and realizes he's dead. He wonders if that body could have been an accident, that he doesn't believe this was prepared by the test organization. When suddenly he senses something behind him and wonders if he was caught off guard. A bunch of rocks fly in his direction, and skillfully he turns and defends himself from that attack. Without him noticing, one of the attacks gets through and comes very close to his face. It's a different kind of projectile. It hits the spot and explodes instantly. Daesung defends himself as best as he can from the explosion. He thinks it's fire absorption, but then realizes it feels more like mana absorption. Either way, he can't use the ability he used against the orcs. He can't use it because it's on cooldown, and it shows 1 hour and 27 minutes. But it doesn't look like that thing will wait for it. The monster starts summoning those projectiles again, and fires them all at our hero, who defends himself with his weapon. He keeps striking and dodging all the projectiles thrown by the creature. Then he pushes forward and charges, leaving those things behind. Thinking that this is getting boring, he decides to attack the main body. He runs through those projectiles and approaches the enormous stone golem. The monster releases smoke while waiting. Daesung prepares his attack against the creature. The monster, in turn, also prepares to attack. He hits the huge golem dead on, but didn't expect to be hit by it as well. It seems the damage he caused was very little, but he is sent flying from the impact of the creature, breaking trees along the way. He flies far, leaving a trail of dust behind. Elsewhere, someone tears pieces off some creature. Jim eviscerates some creature there. There was the remains of a defeated orc. The bot says that candidate number 14 has completed the requirements of the 1st floor and will receive the coordinates to the portal to the 2nd floor. He thinks he lost a lot of time because of that one. It seems something catches his attention, and he glances over his shoulder. A white object falls behind him. Quickly, he catches it in the air, and opening it, he thinks it's a vial, a special compass, and a note. Looking at the paper, he wonders what it means. Then that paper catches fire, and he realizes that bastard number 104 is still on the 1st floor. Back to the fight, that golem watches its opponent. It summons those projectiles again. Daesung starts getting up after the powerful blow he took. He says that took a while, and excitedly gives the command to the Phantom Shadow. He orders it to devour that thing. Preparing with his weapon, he says to clear the way. Meanwhile, the projectiles fly in his direction. The shadows go to meet the attack, and flames rise above everything. Our hero launches a fire attack toward the projectiles, leaving those things in flames while the shadows grab and devour everything. Smiling, he says he'll give him double what he did to him and sends the shadows in. Our hero simply watches as those shadows move toward his opponent. They advance carrying those flaming projectiles. They start to compress into a pool of shadows, and the monster roars furiously, charging forward. It rushes our hero, passing over that pool of shadows, which suddenly launches a bunch of shadow spikes outward. The creature is caught by surprise by that. Several shadowy hands stretch toward the monster, holding those flaming projectiles. Daesung says, "Take these fine stones." Meanwhile, back in the operations room, it seems they're managing to recover the test footage. Someone says the screen has been fixed, and another says candidate 104's screen is back, then someone tells them to zoom in quickly. Someone asks if the image was fixed, and another says there's fog, while someone else questions if the first level wasn't supposed to be a rainforest. An operator tells them to be quiet, something's appearing, and on the screen a huge stone golem is shown. They're startled, wondering what that is and if it's part of the test. The manager questions what the examiners are doing. One of them asks if that's supposed to be right, and no matter how you look at it, it seems like a mutation. He questions if they should stop this right now, since the emergency protectors aren't invincible. The manager is speechless, worried about it. The guy calls for the branch manager. He remains silent while the man insists. One of the men says they just received a signal from candidate 104 and that the examiners were told to stay around him. He asks if they should force an interruption of candidate 104's test. The manager apologizes and says he can't help with that. The surprised girl tells them to look over there. Shocked, they ask if he defeated the monster. Meanwhile, the shadows face off against that stone monster. All the projectiles explode against the golem's body. Chunks of smoldering stone fly in all directions, and the creature falls to the ground defeated. Thick smoke can be seen above the tree line. On the big screen, everyone watches the scene in silence. The manager thinks that classifying him won't be possible. He's on the borderline and thought it was just a measuring error. He thinks it's still unclear, maybe. This could be a monster beyond his imagination. The girl asks if he really took that thing down, if that's what happened, and questions if that isn't actually great. Another operator asks, and if he is great, and thus has nothing to do with that test, while the girl asks, what? The girl continues and says she doesn't believe he can understand the current situation, and tells her to look carefully, because Jim Keel will reach the portal to the second floor first. The two girls stare at each other with hostility, while the man further back asks the manager if he wants them to remove the personnel stationed there. The boss replies no, that they should instruct them to send a report once they manage to find out the truth. Meanwhile, back in the forest, someone moves quickly, stopping only to look at his compass. Jim realizes it must be somewhere around there. He keeps searching through the trees, until suddenly something catches his attention. He suddenly stops running and observes the surroundings. He realizes the mist is dissipating, so he imagines it must be over by now. But that doesn't matter as long as he gets there first. He thinks he'll destroy the compass later, that he'll run to the X and C. Nearby, the remains of the creature are scattered on the ground. Our hero pours his life force over that thing, preparing the ritual for his power. Then he summons his soul prison ability, and gives the summoning command for the new soldier. Through the operations room screen, people see everything. In shock, they ask what else he's doing, and what that could be. Suddenly, a stone golem appears, now controlled by our hero. One of the men asks what the hell that is. The creature roars intimidatingly. Daesung says there's no time, so he tells it to stop posing and show its head. The creature looks a bit embarrassed, and bows before him. He steps with his boot on the monster's head. Then he says, "Run, rock." Nearby, Jim seems to have found something. Looking at the portal, he says there's no way he won't be number one. But out of nowhere, something rushes past him very fast, and he is left speechless looking at it. In shock, he wonders what that bastard is. Back at the building where the exam is taking place, the general of the Hobma clan walks through the place, hearing shocked voices from inside the room. Satisfied, he says he believes this is over now. The room door starts to open, and on the big screen it shows his candidate in shock, staring at something. The boy seems to have frozen in place. Angrily, the boss thinks he's an idiot. And right now, we can see our hero. He's sitting comfortably on the head of his newest friend. Then he orders it to follow this path because it's the fastest. Daesung says he'll make the road, so it should go straight, and he calls it Rocket. He orders the flame king to blow, and a jet of fire shoots from his weapon. That huge stream of fire clears a path through the dense forest. Then he asks what it's doing and says, "Rock, run." The golem and our hero move along the road he just cleared. Then he commands the Flame King to blow again. In the control room, someone says number 104 used some kind of summoning technique, and another is impressed, saying he's using an unprecedented technique. One of them questions if that's possible with an aura technique, and the other replies that it's quite possible, since everything in this world is strange now. The girl says that regardless of whether it's a test or not, this will be on YouTube, and that he's playing like it's a fantasy movie. It's as if the competitors had danced. Someone suddenly punches a keyboard hard. The girls look over, surprised, and the men in the room as well. The general of the Hobma clan looks quite irritated. The room remains silent after that. One of the men approaches him, saying that if he does that there. But he just looks at the guy with a furious glare, and one of his henchmen steps in front, telling the man to back off. The boss puts his hand on his head to recover, and apologizes, saying he was just very excited by that great performance. The captain thinks it's disgusting that he didn't anticipate any of this, no matter how meticulous you are. Either way, he thinks Choyang will get there too. Back in the forest, Jin shouts, calling Daesung a bastard. Meanwhile, he looks back and sees another person running toward him. Surprised, he turns to get a better look, and sees its show coming his way. She's coming at high speed, so that guy starts running too. Meanwhile, our hero reaches a cold area. He questions that the first floor was hot, but the second is cold, that they have no creativity. Then turning to the golem, he says, "Hey, Rockhead, good job." He dismisses his soldier, and in the next moment, his bracelet begins to glow. The bot appears, congratulating candidate 104 for having crossed the portal to the second floor. Looking at the portal, he says no one else came and asks if he can start. Then it explains that the top 5 will start in different entry portals, and for now, it will reveal the conditions to complete the second floor. Excited, the bot points to a mountain and says he must conquer the snowy mountain's peak. Our hero starts walking, and the little creature wishes him good luck. He thinks he can't measure exactly, but it must be something around 5 km. Daesung starts climbing that enormous mountain. As he climbs, followed by drones, he thinks this is pretty boring. He thinks he can't use them anymore while watching the drones rising with him. A noise catches his attention from below, so he looks and sees someone at the base of the mountain. He knows he heard that from a rank C or D, they earn money as carriers, but even so, they are awakened people. Jim curses the test for making everyone start in different places. And if it keeps annoying him like this, he won't be able to help it. Until he cuts that bastard down, he thinks he won't be satisfied. Something catches his attention from behind. Looking at that person from afar, he asks who else is there. Then he sees the old man coming and saying it's cold with a lot of difficulty, and that he can't move the tips of his fingers anymore. Jim looks seriously at the old man and thinks that first of all, this fly. The desperate old man slaps his own face, saying that he can't take it and that he must think of his family who died without even having the chance to scream. He yells that it's not that cold, but in the next moment, an avalanche reaches him. He starts screaming, begging for someone to save him. Jim, with a wicked look, tells him to go bite his tongue now, calling him a rude bastard, and tells that fly to go to hell. Suddenly on a screen, it shows disconnected. The operators ask what happened again. Someone replies the transmission drone doesn't work, and a third says it looks like everything went down. Lee Seok just absorbs the situation, thinking that it looks like it's begun and hopes that Jinchul doesn't disappoint him again. The snow doesn't stop falling on that mountain. More people arrive, and one of them asks if they really have to go all the way to the top. Showing determination to his companion, he asks if there's any problem with that because they're the most powerful of all combos. Then out of nowhere, someone lands on him, stomping the guy who was giving a thumbs up. His companion is shocked by the scene, but the person grabs that guy by the head right after, and roars in fury, overpowering the two guys. Excited and out of control, Jin says that the Orc Champion's vial has a fantastic effect and anyone who crosses his path will die. Meanwhile, Sho continues climbing and thinks the hunter's connection is unstable. She wonders if all electronics suddenly broke. Right next to her, a drone seems to short-circuit. Daesung observes this and concludes that it's broken. He says, "Great, let's take it slow now." Then he lets go of the mountain, giving the command to use another ability, the armor of the destroyer dragon Valark. He starts falling, stretching his arms forward, and he keeps falling farther and farther. Nearby, Sho notices something happening and wonders what that is, that huge wave of aura. Then in the next moment, our hero appears flying with a pair of wings. Impressed by that, she wonders if number 104 is flying using aura. Daesung flies past the girl at high speed. Meanwhile, down below, Jim keeps tearing for the other candidates. The guy looks pretty wrecked down on the ground until something catches his attention, and he sees our hero with wings spread in the air. He says that bastard and wonders if he took a harpy pool. The next instant, he lets go of his prey and starts running toward Daesung, shouting for number 104 to wait. Meanwhile, in the operations room, someone orders the test to be stopped immediately. The captain stares at the local manager. He asks if the safety of the awakened doesn't come first. Then the manager tells Captain Hwanjun to wait a little longer. They will investigate this as soon as possible. Lee Seok laughs at that and sarcastically says that anyone who wants to become a hunter now can't take this kind of risk anymore and wonders if they can be called hunters. Turning to the man, he asks if that's not right, addressing the branch manager. The manager coughs under the pressure of the moment. Angrily, Wong asks the young man if he was the one who did this. Smiling, he asks if it wouldn't be better if a weak hunter didn't become a hunter at all, if he made her that weak. The manager and the rest of the staff just watch tensely. Exploding with anger, the captain says, "That little snake," while the young man says that old man should retire. Back in the test, our hero reaches the top of that mountain. Looking at the gate, he asks if he can end it now, then starts walking toward the door. Still pushing forward, Sho continues climbing the mountainside, and Jim keeps up his climb too. Suddenly, from under a pile of snow, a hand emerges, and someone starts crawling out from underneath. Exhausted, that old man manages to free himself and collapses in the snow. He tries to catch his breath and thinks he won. He shouts that he won because he's not dead. Coming to his senses, he says that it's really cold and that he's going back down. The bot says it will begin explaining what's needed to complete the third floor, to prepare to be attacked by monsters, kill monsters, and gather 1,000 points. While Sho scratches her head, the bot wishes her good luck. She realizes it's completely dark and that she first needs to be careful until her vision adjusts. Suddenly, someone calls her name, and Jim appears, overflowing with energy, asking if she also saw that guy flying just now. She looks at the guy and asks, "John Jinkyul." Then he says she was lucky to have gotten there before him. The girl doesn't seem to care much about him. She tells him not to make too much noise and to go his own way, calling him an orc. Jim clearly gets irritated at that. The girl remembers someone telling her to be careful with Dasan. She thinks that 104 was fast on both the first and second floors. Then she stops to look at her bracelet, which reports an error in the aura reactor, when suddenly something hits her straight in the stomach. She's surprised by the attack. Jim, with a maniacal look, says he tried to give that to 104 first, but looks like she's out of luck, he says, enjoying the situation while she's scared, saying with difficulty that John Jinkiel is a dog. On the terminal, it shows that the first special ability has been triggered. The fire cannon, its firepower isn't high, but it functions as a guided missile. He fires at several creatures attacking him, tells the Fire King to take care of it quickly, and the king obeys the command. He keeps firing at the creatures, eliminating them one by one. Looking at that pile of monsters on the ground, our hero says the Fire King took too long with those bastards. Speaking of which, he asks if the points aren't increasing, then turns away, leaving it behind, and says that before anything else, they'll get rid of everything they're seeing. In the operations room, the manager asks on the phone if the network hasn't recovered yet. Lee thinks that combining the hook component's pulse with the ampoule wasn't a bad idea. Looking satisfied with everything, he mentally apologizes to Huang. And even if Shin Shou is alive, she must be half-blind or crippled. Back at the test site, someone has their life force dripping onto the ground. Feeling the attack, Shou asks what he was doing during the test. He mocks her, saying he thinks she was kind of soft, and asks if she used her aura shield. But in the middle of the provocation, something changes, and Shou is already on top of him, attacking. She hits the guy square in the face, knocking him back. He tries to steady himself on the ground, and furiously asks, "What the hell?" But looking forward again, he no longer sees the girl. He laughs and asks if Captain Huang taught her hide and seek because she's a bitch. Shou, hiding in a corner, tries to treat her wounds. She uses her power while thinking she needs to recover quickly. But suddenly Jim appears like a sadistic monster, saying he found her. She quickly removes her coat and throws it in Jim's face, catching him off guard. Even more surprised, she lands a solid kick in the guy's sensitive area. He screams in pain, covered by the coat. Then in sequence, she knees him in the face, sending him stumbling back and knocking the coat off his face with the impact. He looks dazed and tries to recover from the attack. Preparing to fight, she says her name is not bitch. It's Shin Shou, champion of the Soul Clan, then lands a powerful blow to her enemy's stomach. This time, Jim seems to feel the strength of the attack, and goes flying and spinning, getting thrown backward. That guy hits the ground, completely wrecked. Furious, she says he's filthy and rude like a monster, and adds, "You're right, leader." She spits, mocking the guy, and turns to walk away. In the operations room, Wang thinks he didn't raise her to be weak. Our hero says this is insane, that thing broke. Half desperate, he wonders what he should do now, and calls out to the organizers, asking if he could just leave and ask them. Then finally, he goes on his way, cursing the situation. Shou wonders why she can't see any of the other candidates, when out of nowhere, something passes very quickly beside her. One of the candidates falls in front of her, and behind her, Jin reappears, apparently fully regenerated. In fury, he calls for Shin Shou. Without thinking twice, she runs off, escaping the situation. She wonders what he did to the guy, if he killed the other candidate. Then, without warning, something appears in front of her, and Jim appears, hitting her squarely with his arm. He looks at her with a crazed expression. He crouches down and starts punching the girl. She tries to defend herself the best she can. Grabbing her by the hair, he tells her to let out, cursing at her, then adds that he's going to kill her painfully. Jim keeps hitting her without mercy. The girl clearly feels the attacks. Pulling her in close, he tells her to beg for help. Maybe someone might hear and come running to save her. Ironically, he says, "Oh wait, the communication equipment is broken, I'm sorry." While the guy laughs in satisfaction, the girl jabs both fingers into his eyes. He falls backwards, screaming in pain, and releases Shou. With his arm over his eyes, he curses the girl. While she thinks she needs to recover quickly, she needs to escape. Something starts happening in the guy's eyes, while she tries to crawl away as fast as she can. Then the man calls her name, grabbing her by the neck again, saying playtime is over now. With red eyes full of rage, he tells her to die now. But suddenly, someone gets his attention, and our hero arrives just in time, asking what he's doing. Excited by the situation, Jim says it's number 104, then drops the girl all battered on the ground and starts laughing like a madman. He welcomes number 104 and says he was looking for him. Disappearing from where he stood, he thanks him for coming all the way there. Suddenly, Jim appears right on top of our hero, who seems calm. Daesung simply steps forward a bit, dodging the guy's attack, going over to the girl. Confused and surprised, he wonders how. Kneeling near Shou, he says it must hurt like hell, and that it looks like she's recovering slowly, so it must have been a really deep wound. Daesung glances over his shoulder and sees the other guy staring at him. With that crazy look, Jim tells number 104 that it seems he has some talent, but our hero ignores the comment and simply asks if he was the one who did that. Jim explains that she couldn't understand the situation, so he gave her a proper education, and laughing, says that he'll be like that soon. Then our hero says just one word, no. He asks if it was the guy who broke the meter, but Jim only watches him laughing, and clapping his hands, he uses a storm wave attack. Then Daesung notices his bracelet being affected. That guy says he completely forgot about the emergency protection, but it's broken, and that our hero is out of luck. Suddenly, very fast, Daesung punches the guy in the face. He flies backward, bouncing off the ground. With his hand on his face, he calls our hero a bastard. Daesung gives him no time and uses the fire cannon ability. Jim gets nervous and tries to defend himself. A bunch of projectiles flies in his direction, but he says that his talent isn't lesser than Daesung's. However, in the next moment, something surprises him. Our hero is right in front of him, followed by his commanded soldiers. Daesung says that this bastard is messing with his terrible temper. In the operations room, someone tells the manager that the second floor's network has been restored. Then he asks about the third floor, but the woman says it's still in the process of server replacement, so it'll take another 30 minutes. The manager orders a security team to be deployed to the second floor and instructs them to wait at the third floor gate. The girl confirms. Lee says the manager should take all the time he needs and sarcastically asks if they aren't supposed to be hunter candidates. And Captain Huang thinks he really is a snake's offspring. At that moment, the door opens, and someone rushes in, calling for the branch manager. He reports that the security team informed them there was a death and several injuries on the second floor. The man is shocked and asks what. Lee just looks at him satisfied, and Captain Huang looks a bit worried about it. On TV, the news reports that the video transmission failed during the hunter test, and that's the information they've had for a whole hour. Shanho thinks that's where his friend is taking the test. He grabs his jacket and rushes out, thinking he has to go immediately. Back in the test, someone is moving very fast. Jim starts running, thinking that person is the devil, that he is the devil in person. Suddenly, something passes by him, tearing off his leg. Jim screams in pain from the attack and crashes to the ground, tumbling at high speed. Not believing it, he thinks this can't be. He realizes he only has one regeneration ampoule left from the wooden golem. Daesung says that even bugs in hell regenerate after being cut, and he's no exception. Jim screams in terror at Daesung. Back in the control room, someone says it's been restored, and another orders the security team to be called. Lee, in shock, sees something on the screen, asking what's going on. There, everyone sees Jim on his knees before our hero. He begs to be spared and says he has no regeneration ampoule left, asking for forgiveness for what he did. Daesung asks, regeneration ampoule? That's a problem. I'll have to cut you in half to see if you multiply. Desperate, he thinks that if he's cut in half, the regeneration ampoule won't save him. In any case, our hero notices that the camera seems to be working again. Seeing that, he thinks, in that case, if the guy answers his 3 questions honestly, he'll let him go. Surprised, Jim says yes, really. Then Daesung makes a quick move with his weapon, placing it over the guy's head. He adds that if he lies, however, he'll cut him in half. That guy is terrified of Daesung. Then he asks first, did you do all this at the test site? The general of the Hogma clan becomes worried about that, and Captain Huang is apprehensive. On the screen, it shows Jim tense, not knowing what to say. Daesung asks if he's the guy who messed with the test. Jim stammers while thinking about what to say. Our hero says to look at the baby thinking and asks if he should ask the question after slicing him in 2. That might be fun. The guy screams, begging to tell him, saying he's right, that he did it all, and repeats that he was the one who did everything. Daesung ponders the response, while the boy stays tense on the ground. In a firm tone, he asks who made him do it, and explains that's the second question. Jim thinks he'll survive this, then says the leader of the Hogma clan gave an order to weaken the other clans, and that he just did what he was told. Our curious hero asked about Hogma. In the operating room, the surprised people ask if what John Jin said is true, looking at General Lee. They ask if he is the leader of the Hogma clan, and someone else calls Lee Sukwu. Annoyed, the guy thinks John Jin is a dog. He yells, calling him a bastard, saying he caused all this trouble and now wants to blame him, then orders them to catch that bastard now. But someone calls for leader Lee Sukwu. The manager says they will listen to the explanation from the Hunters Inspection Agency. Lee curses and realizes he can't fix anything from there. Adjusting himself, he says fine, and that they will appear at the inspection agency on the appropriate date. They comment that Lee Sukwu lowered his head and wonder what is going on. Sometime later at that test site, while walking, Lee says John Jin is a bastard that bit him even knowing he was the one who raised him. He says he will grind him like rat meat. One of the men calls for his leader and asks if he really had to lower his head so much. He suddenly stops there. Lee says he is a stupid bastard, and that if he had said one wrong word, Huang would want his head. Nearby, someone clenches their fist in anger. Huang watches all of it furiously. The manager thanks him for his patience with the association, but he says he didn't tolerate it because of the association. He turns and starts to leave, thinking they are all trash. The manager says on the phone that the entire security team has been deployed and the test is over. He orders activation of emergency protections and moving the injured. Inside the test, our hero says, third. Jim waits for the question tense. He asks if there's any point remaining. The boy asks what he means by that. He thinks that if he lies, he will be cut in half, and even if he has 1 point remaining, he'll still be cut in half, and that no matter what he answers. Suddenly, the bot congratulates him, saying Daesung placed first, and that the test is over, thanking everyone for their efforts. Daesung says it ended rather suddenly. He congratulates because after all, he is an incredible S-class hunter. Then in the next moment, our hero attacks the boy, and as promised, he splits the guy in half. Daesung says he had a point remaining and asks why he didn't answer the question correctly. Something happens to show that catches his attention. He looks and sees her covered in green energy. Back at the snowy mountain peak, the security squad approaches the portal, ordering the injured to be evacuated first. Already inside the third floor, they say they found an injury there. Ring the stretcher. On the Hunters Association board, people say the Hogma clan should be disbanded, that 104 did a good job among other things. Someone slams their notebook shut, and that old man just closes his eyes, thoughtful. A woman approaches and tells the president that all 10 clans are there. He thinks about the person who came to the association today just to see his face. And disheartened, he says, "My God." She says that even with the power of the first floor, Han Dasung would already be S-class. The old man asks if he is the first monster since Li Chang. Pointing to a document, he says, "Secretary, Han Dasung, male, this one." He adds that no matter what, he must make him a member of their association. Then the woman replies, "Yes, sir." Outside the building, some cars are parked. Inside, it's quite busy. One of the men asks how the test went, and another replies that the video retransmission was completed, that the Hogma clan is done for, and whether Jim did everything alone. The bot announces that the acceptance criteria have changed due to a series of setbacks. Admission was decided based on the order people passed the first floor. The passing standard for the first floor. Someone asks if that's not too low a criterion for admission, and another asks how big the incident was. On the screen, it shows that Han Dasung is ranked A. Chanho asks Dasung on the phone where he is. Startled, he repeats, S-rank hunter's bathroom, and asks why he's there. Someone takes a drink in a luxurious place. Our hero relaxes in a massage chair. The double doors open with someone yelling his name. Confused, he asks how all this happened. Daesung says he doesn't know that the president's secretary told him to rest there. Chanho is surprised, questioning the president's secretary, and says this is really crazy. Daesung says that she told him he is an A rank with potential for S rank. Happy with the situation, Chanho says that this is really amazing, and that now he can buy a building with his money. Our hero seems quite satisfied with that. But his friend says that in any case, there's a commotion outside because he's a likely S rank. In the lobby, people say they need to take him to their clan. Another says they need to write the contract, and a third asks if he's a world-class rank that they need to recruit him. Suddenly, the elevator arrives at the first floor. It looks like someone is coming, and they ask who that is, saying it's someone from the association side. Everyone runs over there, and they start taking pictures of the old man. He shouts saying that he passed the hunter license test. People take photos and congratulate him, taking more pictures and wanting to interview him as well as asking his name. Then he introduces himself as Dasung. Surprised, they ask if it's Han Dasung. They ask if he can give details about the incident. Another asks him to explain the fire he used on the first floor and what happened with the broadcast accident. Suddenly, someone says Dasung's face looks different. And on the big screen, it shows the old man as Han Dasung, with rank at the border. The candidates are being rescued. One says he can't do this, and that he'd rather be a farmer, and not everyone can do this, and they curse Jim Cheel. One of the security guards searched all the way to the third floor, but couldn't find Jim Cheel. Then he answers someone on the phone saying yes, that he will close the portal for now. Annoyed, he wonders if that bastard really made it back alive. The news says that an accident happened during the hunter's test, while most of the candidates were fighting. Ajuma says she needs to buy at least one more set of clothes for Dasung, but he always wears the same clothes, and she wonders if she should look for a job. On TV, it shows that Dasung received a rank with a unique skill, and according to specialists, he could take the spot of the 6th awakened S-class. His mother is shocked by the news, and from inside the house you can hear Ajuma yelling for her daughter. The girl comes running and asks what's going on with her mother. She says it's the news and asks what they are saying. Also shocked, she asks if her brother is an A rank. That's crazy. Suddenly the door opens, and our hero walks in saying that he's there. The two look at him in shock. A bit tense about it, Daesung asks what's going on. Meanwhile, at the Hogma clan headquarters, an inspector says that from now on, it is completely forbidden to participate in any activity related to the Hogma clan. All hunters in that area, without exception, the clan will be forced to withdraw through an official procedure. He says he is Lee Sukwu, and that it's absurd that the potential for the 6th player fell like this. He thinks about him and says he put a lot of faith in him, and that he should have doubted himself but didn't, that Jim can't bring him down, the only one who can do that is himself. The inspector says the leader must accompany him to the investigation agency. Lee starts laughing at that, then slams his hand hard on the table. Lee says that when you take on the challenge of duties, this kind of thing can happen, and asks if he's being taken to the agency just because of his connections with Jim Cheel. Starting to use his energy, the man asks if the leader will follow him obediently. He asks manager Kim Song-soo if he knows how he obtained that position. The promising 6th rank Lee Seok became the first in command of the clan when the leader mysteriously died, and there is evidence that he was involved in the death. He asks what he's going to do sending 2 rabbits into a viper's den, adding that Park Jong lost his judgment the moment he became an old man. The inspector yells, telling Jong-woo to be ready. That other inspector tells the manager that he never said anything like that. Then he says that if they don't want to die to that bastard, they'll have to kill him first. Lee says that in the end, his position wasn't given for free. The two prepare for combat, but suddenly, the other inspector pierces his manager with a sword. In disbelief, he asks, Jung-woo. The man tries to respond, telling the manager that it's not him. Lee says sarcastically, my God, an internal fight, the Inspectors Association has a bunch of problems too. The inspector asks Lee if that is his ability. Then the man responds only by wishing Inspector Kim Seong-soo good luck and uses the puppet aura ability. Several threads of energy fly through the room. One of the men screams in fear, while watching his boss fall lifeless. Trembling, he apologizes to his manager, stammering that he didn't do it. Sometime later, the double doors open. The clan leader walks down the hallway with his henchmen lined up. Then Lee asks if he should inform the association president what will happen if he dares to touch him. Cho is receiving medical care. Won watches her lying in bed. The doctor explains that she can no longer work as a hunter since her aura was shattered. He stands there thinking about it, and his eyes fill with fury. Very irritated, he thinks that now is the time for judgment Lee Seok-woo. At home, the mother tells Da-sung no, that she can't watch him doing something so dangerous. Jisoo agrees with their mother. She says that seeing the news, she knows he became a great person, but dangerous things are still dangerous. He remembers Chan-ho saying that if he wants to become a hunter, 99% of families will oppose it, and the other 1% will kick him out of the house. Smiling, he thinks it's just like Chan-ho said. Fajoma tells him that as his mother, if he falls or something goes wrong like last time, she won't be able to handle it. But Da-sung interrupts and says he already signed a contract with Chan-ho's clan. Jisoo asks if it's the clan of his friend Chan-ho, then questions if he signed a contract with the Seoul clan. Suddenly, our hero opens his inventory and sticks his hand inside, leaving his mother shocked, and his sister asks why he's suddenly doing magic. Then he throws a package full of money on the table. Dae-sung says he received an initial payment from the Seoul clan and asks her to pay everything she owes and use the rest for daily expenses. There's really a lot of money there. His mother, still shocked, asks when he got the initial payment, and his sister, happy, says they even paid in cash. Dae-sung asks why they're so surprised and that he'll earn even more in the future. He tells his sister to listen and go back to studying, and to his mother that he'll take care of the house. And from now on, he will protect both of them. The two are moved by this, but say nothing. He feels awkward and asks what kind of reaction is that, wasn't it supposed to make them happy? Ajumma wipes her tears and says it's okay, and Jisoo says it's frustrating, but seeing the money makes her change her mind. Our hero thinks that if this is the reward for coming back from hell, it seems very good. In another place, a dreadful creature appears, and roaring prepares to attack someone. A man with glasses screams in terror, when another man appears, kneeing the monster and telling it to get lost. The creature goes flying far away with the strike. Then he asks the rookie if he's tired. Desperate, he tries to speak, agent. Then the man turns and leaves him there on the ground. He tells the other man to keep this a secret for today, and looking back at the rookie, he tells him not to give up. Sometime later, the man is lying dead somewhere. His partner cries over the situation. The association manager and the president are present at the scene. He says it was his mistake. He never imagined Lee Seok could be that crazy, and crying, the inspector says, Lee Seok, don't touch that bastard. Crying and furious, he says he'll cut that bastard's head off. The president calls the branch manager, and the man replies, yes, sir. He says, the Hunters Association's son, and take all of them. Surprised, he asks if even the people in the portal fracture. Park Jong says to go dismantle the Hogma clan and capture Lee Seok-woo for insubordination. Sometime later at Da-sung's house, someone says they're dying from all the noise and asks why there's so much noise while the phone shows 101 messages. Our hero, full of dark circles like he just woke up, checks the phone. Dae-sung wonders why he's getting so many annoying spam messages. Among the messages, one asks him to call back as soon as he wakes up. Sometime later outside the house, our hero calls Seong Chan and asks what's wrong. He says he won the auction for a C-rank portal, and that gets our hero excited. And that from now on it's money, and all he has to do is sweep it all. In another place, several security cars head toward their destination. At the Hogma clan headquarters, the cars stop and several people begin to disembark. They move toward the clan headquarters. They quickly get into formation, led by the awakened A-rank Kim Kai-hong. Someone gives the command for the Hunters team, first assault, and for the 2nd Cavalry Regiment. He says if they are insubordinate, subdue them like any normal person, and adds that awakened ones can be killed. Kim gives the command to advance. The attack platoon approaches the building, and they move through the structure. Then the leaders suddenly stop in the main hall. There are bodies everywhere, some still alive. Surprised by the scene, the man asks what the hell is this, and asks his boss what they should do. People around the place are calling for help, shouting for someone. The leader orders the cavalry regiment to retreat and the rest to follow him. Several bodies are scattered all around. In a chair in the middle of the hall sits a person. Captain Huang is clearly exhausted from some battle. The path ahead is also filled with bodies. They proceed through the Hogma headquarters until they reach a large hall. He shouts asking where that bastard Lee Seok-woo is. In the next moment, he notices the man broken on the floor. The Habma clan leader seems to be dead. A crowd begins arriving at the hall. The attack squad leader asks what is going on. He gets closer and asks what's wrong with this guy, this son of a bitch. Crouching there, the operation leader orders Jung-woo to stop it and says that Lee Seok-woo is dead. But the guy keeps trembling with rage. He turns to the captain and says that this was too much for a personal revenge. Hwan explains that he only dealt with the exterior, but he wasn't the one who killed Lee Seok-woo. That guy is surprised by the information. Elsewhere in a pizzeria, the news says that Lee Seok-woo of the Habma clan was found dead. Currently, the main suspect is the Seoul clan. Director Hwan Jun was named. More awakened members of the Habma clan were found dead, and drugs were also discovered at the scene. The old man curses, asking why there's no contact. He thinks he made a clan of doormen himself since there were no offers for him, and if this continues, he'll starve to death before seeing a monster. Then suddenly the phone rings, and the old man grabs it, looking surprised. Whatever he sees on the phone makes him happy. A car speeds down the street. Chan-ho says that Dae-sung rejected about 10 clan offers, and his friend confirms it, saying there's a lot of hunter gear that others can see in their homes. Our hero asks who cares about those items, thinking they would faint if they saw the items that came from hell. He asks if a C-rank portal makes money. Chan-ho says he's crazy, that the cost to clear a C-rank portal is 50 billion, 30 billion without taxes and fees. Shocked, Da-sung asks if it's a 40% tax and says they're bastards, but Chan-ho says with an alternative he can make more money with other cores. He adds that he also called the doorman and asks if he'll really be okay alone, and our hero asks, alone? Then says that Chan-ho should go too. Chan-ho falls silent, sweating nervously, and asks what his friend just said right now. Dae-sung says he registered him as his doorman, but that paperwork is just a headache, so he asks Jisoo for help. Just a little scared, Chan-ho thinks this bastard is going to get him killed. The military has isolated the portal area, and sometime later, our duo arrives at the location. The soldier greets them and asks to see the portal pass. Chan-ho pulls out his documents and presents them. The soldier looks a bit alarmed by what he sees. It says there will be only one hunter, Han Da-sung, and one operator, Chan-ho. Surprised, the man asks for a moment and says that this is a group portal, asking if they're really okay with those numbers, and that the minimum is usually about 100 C-rank hunters. He says that's exactly what he said and asks if he thinks an A-rank hunter like him couldn't enter, and that he himself isn't even married yet, but the soldier says it's the rule. Then the soldier orders the barricade to be opened, saying these guys are crazy, so they won't get involved in it, and Chan-ho asks his friend can reconsider, that no matter his S-rank potential, this is a C-rank team portal, and the top 10 of the clan don't care about the rest because it might weaken the others. Grabbing his friend, Dae-sung tells him to trust him, and scared, Chan-ho panics and pleads for him to wait a moment to let him go. He says they should go home, that if there's a chance, he'll jump first, and not to curse him for not being that loyal, but our hero just drags him along. On the ground, Lee looks exhausted and terrified. Suddenly, an energy surrounds him, and he screams for help, begging to be saved. He screams as he starts to float. Still screaming to be saved, something resembling a dark eye appears before him. Suddenly, from within it, an arm emerges, and it moves toward the Habma leader. Then that hand rips out his heart. Lee clearly feels that fatal attack. As the arm returns to what looks like a portal, the leader of the Habma clan collapses to the floor. In the meeting room, the agents and the association director watch the recording of what happened. The director says Lee Seok-woo and asks if they can't confirm who was in command. The inspector says there was only one camera, so there's no way an autopsy was done on the body, but no aura ability was identified. Park says, well. Frightened by this, he says then it's a real ghost. Back at the portal, the military moves around. The old man arrives, thanking them for their hard work, and says this is Ga Seong, a hunter who will be in charge of handling the products today. Confused, the soldier asks if it's from product processing and wonders why he's there so early, since it's only been 30 minutes since the portal started. He asks if it isn't Han Da-sung who is attacking there today, and the soldier asks him to wait a moment. Checking a paper, the man says that's right, it's correct, and the old man celebrates, saying, great. The old man thinks it's a team portal, so he got lucky that no one had a doorman call. And getting this, the hunter will also be a big star. This is a lottery. On test day, inside a cave on the snowy mountain, something strange seems to have happened there. Jim thinks that he wants to live as he regenerates. He wants to live and take his revenge. When suddenly something appears in front of him. That thing asks if he wants revenge and if he would allow it. While that giant eye stares at him, it simply laughs. Meanwhile, back at the portal, the duo has just entered it. Dae-sung observes the area while his friend is a bit frightened. Chan-ho thinks it sucks, it's his first time inside a portal, but he never saw anything like this. Our hero says they said it's a team portal, but the number is quite large and his friend asks where. Suddenly, up ahead, there seems to be an army. Chan-ho asks what those are, that they are huge. This place is the abandoned lands and they are class 3 lizards, an endangered species. Those creatures charge at them, shouting for food. Dae-sung pulls his huge sword from his inventory. He says that with so many lizards together, it'll be perfect to deal with them. He tells Chan-ho to watch this closely. Then he runs toward the monsters at high speed. His friend is impressed by it. Daesung leaps over that army of creatures and lands on them like a meteor. The terminal shows that the third ability of Hellfire has been activated. Then our hero uses the ability called Volcano. He slams his weapon into the ground with force, causing a massive explosion around. The lizards begin to burn without any chance to defend themselves. Some try to run and others just scream. And a few seconds later, the army is wiped out and our hero stands in the middle of a scorched scene. Chan-ho wonders if that's really his friend. Daesung stands there among the pile of dead lizards. He thinks it smells like roasted seaweed. Chan-ho says he's a bastard. Anoagi says his friend could have said something, that he's a jerk who hid his strength, and that he's not afraid of anything. Daesung then says he'll show him now. Then his friend says he's decided they're going to do it. Not understanding anything, our hero asks, do what? He explains that it's a new clan beyond Korea, a clan with global power. Outside, people are surprised because the portal seems to have been cleared in under an hour. The startled soldier says it's a portal fracture and orders them to contact headquarters, and the other soldier confirms. That old man, surprised, points over there and tells them to look, because it seems someone is coming out from inside. Right after, our hero casually walks out with his super excited friend right behind him. Chan-ho proudly says that the portal is cleared and that they can now take care of the byproducts. Frightened by this, the soldier wonders if it's already been cleared. How could that have happened? Handing over a card from the doorman clan, the old man says he's on Daesung, the hunter who took the test with him last time. He explains that he's in charge of handling the byproducts today, and our hero thinks he has the same name as him. Chan-ho asks, what is this, that he said it was a doorman clan, but he's there alone. The old man says he created a doorman clan, so this will be quick, and Chan-ho gets curious about him also being named Daesung. He explains that he'll change his name in the future, so the name won't be a problem. He'll reinvent himself, so the name Daesung won't be an issue, and in the future to call them Lee Daesung and to visit them again. So Chan-ho tells his friend to go with him. Later, in a tall building, a man shows an apartment saying that floor has a great view, and that the interior, the material, everything is perfect. They look at that beautiful, luxurious apartment. Excited, Jisoo calls her mom and says there's a bathroom in every room. Ajuma asks the guy how much that apartment costs. Then the guy says the property value is 17 billion, and the current transaction is at 18 billion won. Shocked, she questions the 18 billion, and the realtor says that's right, apparently because there's a hunter association nearby. And he tells the mother that safety is the most important thing in the world right now, more than anything. He heard recently that her son is a successful hunter. Jisoo says her brother is an almost S-Class A rank and will soon become S-Class. Ajoma says she's bragging about her brother, and the man says he thought he looked familiar. Daesung says he liked the house and asks if they can get a discount if paying up front. The man says that since he's an A rank, he can get a preferential contract, and because he contributes to safety, he can get about 2 million off. It's expensive because an S rank lives there. Daesung asks, S rank, how cheap could he get it if he were an S-Class? He laughs and says that if he were S-Class, it'd be around 10 million as a deposit. The two women are stunned by that price. Daesung thinks then he could buy that house for 8 billion. At another moment, nighttime in the city. Cars pass by and people go about normally. A woman looks back, worried, wondering who is following her. The woman quickens her pace, when suddenly, distracted, she bumps into someone. Frightened, she asks who he is. A bizarre person tells her not to be afraid, that she has been chosen, so she should be grateful. The woman is terrified by the revealed person. Sometime later at the National Police Agency, inside the autopsy department, someone says this is a woman who died the same way as Suku, only in Seoul, this is the 10th victim found. One of the officers says the public investigation through the media can't be postponed. One of the investigators thinks it could only have been a murder by an awakened. He says he thought the monster portals had finally calmed down, but now there's a serial killer. One of them asks the boss to let him handle it, that he'll catch him. The boss thinks for now there's no choice but to believe it was the same killer as Suku. Then responds that no, for now they should focus on the work of locating portals at headquarters. Adds that they should go public with the news and turn it into a public investigation, and they will receive active support from the investigation agency, in some kind of laboratory. Someone is waking from a deep sleep. Now the person is fully awake. There is Jin Cheol, the rookie who worked with Lee, and judging by the scars on his body, he went through some surgery. He looks around trying to understand where he is. Near him, there's someone working attentively in another part of the lab at a panel. Excited, that scientist notices the man has awakened. As he walks toward him, he says the guy is screaming and flailing like a newborn. Full of fear, he asks the man where they are. Instead of answering directly, the young man replies with another question. Doesn't this look like the lab in the Hongma building? Jin realizes that it's the awakening infusion room with the M-pool. The scientist explains that the M-pool provided by Lee Seok-woo seems to have been very effective on the guy and says he made a special request to the high priest to save him. Finally, he introduces himself as Roman, the eldest of the Hanse. While recalling the eyes that watched him earlier, Cheol then asks how he is still alive. The man says he was reborn as one of the Hanse. Not understanding, the young man questions this information. Smiling, the scientist says he will give the fighter more power and wants to know if he will rule the world with them. Meanwhile, in the Seoul Clan building, with a resignation letter in front of her, someone tells another person that she had to become an S-rank hunter. On the phone, Chanho explains that the priority before anything else is clearing the portal. He interrupts himself, saying that the person on the line wants a promotion to S-rank before buying a new house and asks if he can bid on all the portals. Worried, he wonders when the other guy showed interest in buying a house and then responds that he understood. He adds that there are several things to do and meanwhile asks Han to get some equipment or other things he needs from the market, and the young man remembers something. The young man, who was on the street, says he forgot the equipment. A terminal asks if the hero wants to complete the implementation of the ruler's field. He requests that it be executed. The terminal informs that there are a total of 6 types of fields: Predator Forest, Ghost King's Territory, Flame King's Territory, Exterminator's Nest, and 2 more. Daesung chooses field number 5, which is Balark's Iron Fortress. The terminal shows that the rulers of each field have their minds erased by the transcendent beings of the heavens, and the goal is to defeat them. The next terminal checks if our hero wants to start Protocol 212, which is the Iron Castle 45 years before the current time. Our boy gives his confirmation. A series of images pass through the hero as if data were being downloaded from that place. Daesung watches the images and prepares for what's to come. He knows it will be a tough battle. A portal appears in front of the fortress, with a wooden shield bearing a sun symbol, and a powerful weapon in hand that seems to be a scimitar. Our hero arrives on the map, but he doesn't seem too happy to be using such elements. "What a drive, they made me weaker to carry out this mission," said the frustrated young man. Back at the Xie, the Hunters Association, several newspapers bring worrying news about someone who caused a lot of trouble at the association. The branch chief orders a subordinate to send an official note to each clan as per the envelope and to pin a notice on the Hunter's bulletin board. Someone enters the room looking for the manager. The 2 men watch the newcomer, waiting for her to speak. The one reports that a team failed to clear the level B portal with the Ocean Clan. The employee says that this clan is one of the 4 clans in Korea that belongs to Baek Heron, and he knows it has awakened A-rank people. The woman explains that the monster's compatibility didn't match the aura of Baek's skill, and that's why the team needs the support of another S-class hunter. The chief reflects that fractures occur if the portal isn't cleared within 12 hours. But it's a good thing that the one requesting assistance is Baek Heron himself. In Heron's name, the manager orders them to find the whereabouts of S-class Lee Changshik and Siu Dongshul, asking for their cooperation. The young man wonders if there's anyone who would refuse the request of the Great Baek, Korea's #1 healer hunter. The woman explains that one person would refuse, Rivasoyan from the fortress, because they have a rivalry. Interrupting the conversation, the manager suggests that, if necessary, they use air transport to avoid any bad luck, and the other 2 understand the urgency of the situation. Watching from afar, a part of the city almost looks like a ghost town or ready to receive a zombie invasion. Meanwhile, at the Hope Orphanage, several children are having fun in the playground while being supervised by an adult. A boy jokes that he is the strongest hunter and will defeat another child. The second child gets sad and replies that he won't be the monster because he hates them. The man approaches the 2 children and asks how she thinks her father fights them. He is Siu Dongkyil, a level 2 S-class awakened from the Crow clan. Striking a martial arts pose, the boys prepare to attack while shouting together, "Monster." Then the 3 of them have fun together as the man pretends to be a monster and the children try to defeat him. A nun approaches in a hurry, calling for the director. With the boys hanging on him, the man asks what happened. The sister informs that an urgent message has been issued by the Hunters Association. Asking the nun to take care of the children, he explains that he will have to go to the gate. As he walks away, the woman asks him to be careful not to get hurt. He replies that he is South Korea's #1 great hunter and tries to reassure her that everything will be fine. Meanwhile, on Jeju Island at the C-rank portal, a group of hunters gathers to close it. Someone suddenly walks calmly out of the portal. Lee Changsik, an S-class awakened from the Chosun group and #1 in the Korean rankings, steps out of the portal feeling bored by the ease of that mission. The group, arranged in 2 rows forming a corridor, bows their heads in gratitude for the hunter's efforts. The apprentice explains to her master that she received an official request from the association in Baek Heron's name to assist her in attacking another portal. The man questions why such a powerful hunter would need help. While watching the helicopter fly overhead, Lee recalls that the young woman was very beautiful. Someone is standing on top of an activated portal. Han doesn't understand what's about to happen there. A horned creature begins to slowly emerge from the portal. Once fully out of the portal, the beast kneels while leaning on its weapon, and Daesung sees it from the bottom of the stairs. The enemy activates a power that envelops its entire body. Difficulty: unknown. Description: defeat the gatekeeper. No time limit. Objective: deal with the enemy. Reward: conquest points and 10 implementation. Our hero knows he'll be defeated if he tries to deal with the enemy in his current state. The equipped items available for this mission are the priest Odie's sword and the great ice giant's shield. The young man sits on the ground and begins thinking about how he can win with what he has. He tries to recall how to defeat the creature, but nothing comes to mind. Now he's staring at his weapons, searching for a solution. Suddenly, an idea lights up his thoughts: ice shield. Then he turns his gaze to the warrior dragon that seems to patiently await its opponent. In the next moment, our hero says to himself, Eureka. Now somewhere else in the city, at the entrance of the B-rank portal, security guards protect the entrance with tape and ask journalists not to cross. A reporter explains to a news outlet where he is and that the Ocean Clan is preparing for a second attack after failing to capture the first portal. Two guards who look like they came out of Men in Black get annoyed, wondering how and where these vultures get all this information. Amazed, people watch the Ocean Clan approach along with the incredible Bake, and they ask the woman for an update on the mission's progress. There stands Back Heron, an S-class hunter belonging to the Ocean Clan, and the reporters bombard her with questions about the failure and even her dating preferences. The crowd seems hypnotized by the beautiful woman, showering her with compliments on her appearance and fighting efficiency. She approaches a journalist and kindly asks to borrow his microphone, and the man can hardly believe his luck. She begins to explain the mission, saying she will block the B-rank opening and for that will count on the help of the two best hunters in Korea. The reporters wonder who could be better than their muse, and some come up with two possible names. The woman confirms the rumor and announces that the first and second places in the South Korean rankings are there, Lee Chang-sik and Seo Dong-kil. While absorbing that information, people try to understand how the men arrived so quickly at the portal entrance. Lee speaks with admiration that even though the previous attack failed, she stands firm, and he says the girl likes attention, thinking she was the one who leaked information. Cheerfully, the woman approaches the two, saying they should go together. Journalists argue among themselves, send the news quickly, while another writes a catchy headline, dealing with the B-rank breach with the Lee Seo-baek duo. Out of nowhere, a fireball flies and heads towards someone. It's Han, and he's throwing fireballs at the warrior dragon. But the enemy seems unfazed by the attacks. Suddenly, it opens its eyes and lets out a deafening, powerful roar. Our hero realizes it's showtime, as the beast has just awakened. The young man grabs his weapons and prepares for what's to come. He is fully aware that if he makes a mistake, he will be instantly defeated, and now he needs to focus. The enemy says, "How dare a rat like this challenge me?" The warrior, however, before doing anything else, loses his balance due to something on the ground, and the beast knows it's going to be a good fall. Because of a puddle of water, the warrior dragon falls backward to the ground like a tree. Han realizes that this is the perfect opportunity to attack. He activates his aura and charges forward. The young man runs until he reaches the enemy's side at chest level and prepares his strike. Holding his scimitar upright, he gets ready for a top-down attack. When the beast turns its head to the side, our hero notices a mark that seals something. With his sword, he strikes the seal. And apparently with that, he defeats the warrior. With this victory, the enemy disintegrates before his eyes, disintegrating until it turns into ashes that scatter across the place. Our boy is happy for vaguely remembering the weakness on the creature's neck. As he drops his sword and shield, he says to himself that he won't need them anymore. The terminal informs that for having defeated the enemy, Han may enter the castle. It also shows that he completed the mission and the implementation is at 33%. Standing in the same spot as before, the young man reflects that he needs a weapon before advancing. On one of the castle's walls, there are several spears stuck near a torch. A corridor filled with torches reveals a trap of dangerous spikes hidden beneath the ground. A terminal changes the description and objective. Go to Baloric's chamber, still with no time limit, and it also states the reward is conquest points and 5 points. Daesung touches a wall and believes there was something there. He continues feeling along the wall for a while in search of something. Proving that patience brings rewards, our hero finds a brick in the wall that can be pushed, and so he does. Soon after, a set of bricks disappears and a hidden door appears. The young man stands in front of it, and when it opens, he prepares to enter. A terminal informs that this is Baloric's treasure chest, and the Han may use it for 5 minutes. The young man enters a large room full of items like armor and weapons, and a countdown timer starts, though he already knows what he came for. It doesn't seem like it, but a minute and a half has already passed, and the young man heads toward what he was looking for. He observes a shelf with 3 different weapons hanging there. The terminal says that the Black Dragon Slayer sword deals fatal damage to dragons in hell, and that its unique skill and performance are also focused on damage to that creature. Talking to himself, the hero says that this weapon isn't as good as the Hellfire sword, but if he enters Baloric's chamber without it, he will surely be defeated. With the beautiful weapon in hand, there are still 3 minutes left to enjoy the room's treasures. An armor that looks like a paladin's rests peacefully, as if waiting for something. Not to mention the many chests of various sizes full of gold, coins, jewels, and so many other things. When the timer shows 2 minutes remaining, the young man thinks for a moment. This could be really expensive. A terminal then explains that Baloric's chamber is now open, the implementation is at 66% progress, and the 5 conquest points have been delivered. Han is now in front of a massive iron door. Cocky, he says to himself that it's just the final boss. A bizarre creature roars in fury. Dong Cheol says that's going to ruin his ears and that they need to take care of that mouth quickly to shut it up. He faces the huge creature. He uses his power along with his weapon. Suddenly, the hunter launches himself from the ground. As he leaps, he prepares to counterattack. He strikes with all of his strength using his weapon. A massive explosion of energy occurs. and he looks back shouting for them to attack now. The group of hunters charges forward shouting and brandishing their weapons. They begin attacking the monster non-stop, yelling for it to die, calling it a monster, and one of them says he can't cut through it. Heron shouts from behind, saying that was great for Cheel and tells him to finish it. Behind her, someone calls her name and asks if she's sure she'll go on a date if he approves it. She is surprised by Chang's sick. Then she uses her healing aura ability. Feeling better, he gets up and says, "Nice." She asks him why he's acting like that. Then he turns and says to Heron that it's a gift. Lying there is a dangerous type of monster, a Class 2 Ogre King. Surprised, she asks if he defeated an Ogre King alone. Hugging her, he asks if he doesn't look cool, then annoyed, the girl demands that he take his hands off her. Someone yells to avoid Jessica and tells them to bring the injured guy back. Using his power, Dong Cheel is surprised since it's been a while since he had to carry others. Returning to the fight, he tells her to keep the promise about the date, and in the next moment, he takes off with a burst and vanishes. Not understanding, she wonders if she made a promise. Back to our hero, we see a massive palace. Daesung thinks that it's finally final boss. He says to open the enhancement potions, then starts choosing among them. Dozens of colorful potions appear in front of him. The terminal shows that the absolute ruler has 128,000 conquest points and asks if he wants to consume the potion. He commands that all enhancement potions be applied. Then all of them begin to respond to his command, giving him bonuses in strength, agility, power, defense, critical hit, and resilience. Satisfied, he thinks they're great potions and says, "Let's go." The enormous double doors open, and he finds a grand hall. Inside, he sees a creature with exceptional armor and weapon. Smiling, he says it's been a long time since they last saw each other, Balark. The creature only stares at him without saying anything. Then suddenly, a loud crash comes from the side, and a huge and furious red dragon appears at the boss's feet. It approaches our hero, who prepares to begin that epic battle. The terminal shows that he must resist the fear of the red dragon's annihilation. So our hero prepares using his blood naturalization skill. A guy appears saying, "Loyalty, hello subscribers to the weekly Hunter channel." Says he's the streamer Dragon7, it's Yon Chill. He tells his brothers they're starting this Hunter week with the hot rankings. He says Immovable is in first place, the youngest son of the Chable, who hunts as a hobby, and the leader of the Chosung clan is the clan president. The director of the Hope Orphanage, a person who declared himself the father of the orphans that. Next, he says lilies have bloomed in the hunting grounds, this is back Heron. He reports that there was a B-rank portal fracture crisis this week, but with the Lee Subeck combination, it was resolved in 6 hours, and that he has to say something. Sitting there at his computer, he says, "What? I think I've seen this guy somewhere before." That a solo conclusion was made on a team-type portal, he wonders if that's possible. Thinks not, but seemed to recognize him. Then excitedly, he wonders if it's the older guy from the other day. Sometime later at the Hunters Association, someone reads some news. They ask who will succeed the Hogma clan, that the leader of the Soul clan was arrested, and that Daesung cleared a Type C portal alone. That guy thinks the speed at which portals are being closed is increasing. A guy calls out to Jaik saying they should go for drinks today, but he replies that he has some things to do at home, so he thinks he'll go home today. The guy says that's fine then, they can go next time, and Jake agrees while continuing at his computer. He looks at a map with glowing red markers. Then he says they're running out of offers, and he'll have to change the mood. Elsewhere, a huge red dragon snorts fire while watching our hero in front of him, then suddenly breathes a blast of fire at Daesung. Our hero responds quickly using a simple strike, which hits the dragon in front of him directly. The monster roars, spewing fire and fury, while our hero pierces it with his powerful sword. Daesung says this reminds him of the old days since it's been a long time since he's been this dirty with an enemy's life energy. Finally, that huge monster rises and prepares to enter the fight. Our guy dodges that powerful attack with ease, and he barely even moves to pull off that feat. Speaking seriously, he says that was barely anything, while the enormous creature growls at him. So the video ends here. If you don't want to miss the next part, activate the notification bell, and see you next time on Tob's channel.